All right, we are back for episode 25. 25, a quarter of the way to 100. Wow. I feel like it's a bit of a milestone for us, right?
A little bit.
It's only taken like what, a year and a half.
25 years to get 25 episodes. Yeah.
Right. We took a little hiatus there for a while, came back strong, and then now we're missing Curtis again. But
Of course. Yeah. It's like we're in the world's Carmen Sandiego. We're trying to find Curtis.
But so for the people that are here, I am Evan, one of your hosts, and joining me is our other host, Mark. And
Yo.
we're excited to be here, and we have been playing some video game. I say that singular for a reason.
Yeah.
But if you're here, be sure to give a like, comment, or subscribe, or join our Discord channel. We'll plug that again at the end of the episode. So I guess we'll just go ahead and kick it off. Mark, what have you been playing?
I'll tell you what I've not been playing is I have not logged on to Marvel Rivals, even though it's the halfway point of the season. Big update, 2 new characters. And I've not been playing because I've been stuck on a little game called Avowed.
That's pretty good. So yeah, I have also been playing Avowed. I took about a week off of playing games, and then Avowed hit, and I've taken about a week on.
Came crawling back.
Yeah. We will talk about Avowed here. That's going to be a good chunk of the episode because we both have a lot of thoughts on that. Curtis also had different thoughts on it from what we've talked about in our private chat or whatever. But so we were looking forward to having something just a different perspective. I think Mark and I will still even have different ideas, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. One other thing that I have not been playing, but I've had to share the Xbox a little bit, not with just my kids, but my wife.
Okay.
She has currently, I think, 825 out of 1,000 gamer score on Little Kitty Big City.
Nice.
So yeah, I want to say it started. So like my son had been playing it or whatever for a while since it hit Game Pass, several like last year sometime. So on Wednesday nights, I generally my wife gets a kind of an evening to herself, and I rile up the kids, and we go to church on Wednesday nights. And so I left, and she was grabbing the Xbox controller as I was heading out the door, and then we come back like 2 hours later, she hasn't moved, and then she's been playing it on it, and kind of anytime she can squeeze a break in or whatever. The last several days, here. So she's been playing that last night. I actually didn't even play Avowed last night. Got to play a little bit during the day yesterday, but did not get to play last night because she was trying to, get these like the last like 100 or last few of the 100 soda cans to recycle, and all the little checklist or whatever. So I'm like, oh, she's a completionist type gamer here. She's trying to get every little thing, and she's like, our son had, like this something where you had to like take like 20 selfies or something. She's like, I assume I just got it because like I didn't see it on the list or whatever. And I was like, well, you see those question marks down there? Those are secret items that you have to like, and then like the moment she took like her first selfie. Yeah. And so it's also within the game as well, right? Gotcha. Because I'm sure this is a big game on Switch as well, which doesn't have achievements. So a lot of games that are like will have those internal whatever checklists
in-game type.
So she did that, and then discovered that like, oh, there was a handful of question mark items that were also, some might have been the secret achievement. Some I think the selfie one was not a secret achievement like within the Xbox, which was interesting. To not to something I've been playing, because again, all I've been playing is Avowed. And if I was playing anything before that, I really can't remember. Little Kitty Big City, and she's wrapping this up. She's like, all right, you're gonna have to find something else to play, and I did start Kiwi, the game Kiwi. Shout out to Excel.
And that's not like kiwi the fruit, it's like kiwi Wii, like a key for a door.
KEYWE.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
So you're like with the Kiwi birds, right? And shout out to Excelsior from the Discord who gave a recommendation for this game. But I've had it sitting a little while. I got it on a sale, I don't know, several months ago, I think around the holidays. And was wanting to play it with my wife or whatever. And then like my son saw it and he wanted to play it. But there's like a little bit of like he's right on that, like he's learning how to read right now. So he's in that process. And there's like reading in this game, right? And but it'll be like in a year or so when he's got a little bit of reading comprehension and can just he doesn't have to sound out each word and stuff like that, it'll or whenever that happens. I don't really know exactly what age that happens, but he'll like it'll be a good game to play with him, and it's fine. We had some fun, but I was really looking forward to playing with my wife, and she's like that one looked pretty fun. So I'm like, all right, we got that. We've got It Takes Two, and Split Fiction is coming out from the It Takes
March,
Two makers, right? So that's right around the corner. We'll probably wait for that to hit EA Play on Game Pass, but we've got plenty to play there. And then also I'm looking at things like Tome for her to play. Just stuff that I think she'll like. I've thought about like say giving her the Steam Deck or handing her the Steam Deck and saying, "Hey, play Portal," because I think that is something I could see her enjoying. It's not as just light hearted and spirit and fun as like something like Little Kitty Big City or what's the other game, Short Hike is another game to play through. But I do think she would like the puzzle mechanics of it, and like she kind of likes she does like something to drive her forward, because she does not like Animal Crossing. So
yeah, the open-endedness. Do you think you'd start her on Portal or and like see how she does and then go to Portal 2 together or something?
That would be the goal, because I haven't played Portal 2 co-op in a long time, and that's my
long game.
That's my favorite co-op experience ever. So
can we go back to Split Fiction for a second? There was a thing in the news. I just thought of this because you said it. There's a bit in the news. Obviously, there's the friend pass or whatever, which is I think they did with It Takes Two as well. So like a friend can get the copy of the game, like they can just play with you, right?
Yeah. So basically, there's a friend copy or whatever. I can't remember exactly what they call it, but I think A Way Out is the same way, right? And and then It Takes Two, where it's like you can technically download the game, but you can only play it if you're connecting with
our host
somebody that owns it. It's almost like on the DS used to have download play, right? Where it's basically like you can just play this co-op portion of the video game. For you don't have to have two. You and your friend don't have to have a copy to be able to play this together online. And it's also got local co-op, right? These games have local co-op, but yeah. So if you want to go ahead, and I was going to take over your news beat here, but if you want to kind of share what is new to Split Fiction in that realm.
Oh yeah, it includes crossplay, and it's unlimited times that you can do this, right? So I can invite you to play, and then we finish the game, or whatever, and then I can also invite Curtis to play or someone else. Just it's one at a time and crossplay across the different platforms. So super wide open and consumer friendly, which I'm all for. That I think this is fantastic. It'll sell a lot of copies.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a cool move, and it's weird because like EA's name is on this game, right? But it's that the developer, right? What is it called? I can't remember the name of the developer, but the developer is just super like just. I mean, it's hard not to like them as a developer. One of those, and
it's Hazel Light Studios, by the way.
Hazel Light.
Yep.
Got to give them a shout out, right? Because just the way they do things. But pretty cool. And a good thing to see in the industry, especially at a time where it just feels like you're getting milk dry everywhere in every game you play, right? There's something that came out like Multiverses recently, where it's like I can't remember which suit it was for the if it was for WB or just the studio or whatever, just like complaining like that complaining about the backlash and stuff on that they were getting on like on social media and everything about the game, and they're just like like there was just a bunch of comments like just saying like like, oh, like how dare the players expect like a quality product that they pay a quality price for, like
Yeah.
actually getting something for their money as
Yeah.
opposed to just and complain about being getting a lower quality game for higher price kind of thing, just
Is it bad that when you said a suit, I thought it was a skin for the game? You said a suit's coming. No, I was like, oh, okay.
uh,
Which skin was too much
oh
money?
man,
That's what I was thinking you were getting
right,
at. But yeah,
right.
that kind of spells out the problem there for you a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so we had like I said, we're gonna talk about Avowed, but I think that's gonna be our closing topic. I think we real quickly, if you're ready to move on,
Um,
go ahead.
you sparked my thoughts because you had family playing. So I'll shout out my family
Sure.
playing. So we pulled the Series S out into the living room on a little tiny TV, little 1080p TV, and we've been playing some. My son's like he's 3, wants to play No Man's Sky. He's like, "Mommy, I want to play No Man's Sky. Daddy, I want to play No Man's Sky." I'm like, okay, and he can do it, dude. It's pretty weird. So I had to help him, like, because you have to read stuff in the very beginning. It's like, oh, all these tutorial things, like go collect something or go demolish something, build a base. So, but you can play co-op straight from the rip, which I thought was cool. Like we can just get literally on the same planet, play the very beginning of the game together. We don't each have to do the tutorial thing. Like I can do all the tutorial stuff, and since he's there adjacent to me, like it does it, recognizes he did it. We got into like a little fight with these little sentinel flying robot things, and I'm like, dude, I need your help, and he's like, sorry daddy, I left. And I turn around and he had found his ship, got in his ship, and flew off planet. So he's like, he's just he's a little crazy with it. It's funny. And then we played Core Keeper as well, which my daughter prefers Core Keeper, which you can side by side, but there's no crossplay, which sucks because I would really love to get like two of them on Xbox and me on the Steam Deck or something. But yeah, that was my family's gameplay. But other than that, it's been Avowed. So I am ready to move on after that.
Okay, yeah. So Core Keeper has local co-op, right? No Man's does not.
No Man's is not local. I don't even know if I don't think Core Keeper is either. We play on each Xbox separately.
I just assumed it was. It just felt like a game that would have it.
I don't think it is because you have to host it. It says host game. I don't ever see like a jump in.
Yeah, I wonder if I could because that wouldn't be one that wouldn't be probably wouldn't be too bad as long as I have a little bit of decent connection or whatever to play on like xCloud or something. If I could play on xCloud and then have one of either, because that was another game I was thinking about for my wife was I know that one is a little more open-ended, and so I'm not sure that would be for her, but like I do wonder if there is a Stardew Valley or a Core Keeper or something that pulls you along just a little bit, just enough, right? If there is something that, like, because Animal Crossing is a very different, it's still a different type of
it's
game,
very static. Like you're only on that island. Yes, things can happen on the island, but nothing. Like you just keep doing the same thing every day, hoping something different happens.
She played New Leaf, right? And that was like,
yeah.
But yeah, it's still same thing, right? You're kind of like, you're just kind of, the only thing that you're really striving for is just bells, right? Or just more paying off your mortgage, and that's and in terms of like what you're trying to achieve, like the game is pushing you to achieve for the most part, where it's like there's a little more to these other games, right? And I'm sure she'll end up having to dive into Stardew Valley, Minecraft, and stuff as my kids get older, right? Because they'll all go through their phase. Stardew Valley is a local co-op one, so I'm like that might be a good one for the where we just get a good chunk of the family playing and stuff. And
that was just tough because of the text, like depending on the age of the kids and what they can read, right? Like understanding the text, the energy mechanic I found. So like we were trying to play it a little bit, and the fact that like my kids can't just go and just chop wood all day or whatever they want to do, because the energy bar runs out and then they get tired. And if you get too tired, you pass out, right? And the day ends, and then you have less energy the next day. So I found that really inhibitive to play with them. So that's why, like obviously Minecraft or even Core Keeper, there's no stamina. Like there's a health bar, and if your energy gets low, you don't pass out or anything. Like they can just keep playing. And I've taught them how to eat the food too, to like increase their health and stuff. So, but on store, I mean, I'm not going to pretend Core Keeper has some like amazing story or something, but there's not like dialogue that you have to read a lot. There's some, but there is a story that like kind of hooks you in as you're exploring. You find like these almost like alien type temple things, and there's definitely a progression to it. And as you get further and further in through the caves, different things happen. So I don't know, there might be enough of a hook there, and it's fun to play together. Like, it's pretty simple. Like, we built a house, we've got a farm with a little cow, which is crazy. You can build a farm in a cave. So there's like,
Oh yeah.
there's like cave cows basically, and sheep, and
And it's, do you know how many players it plays up to?
at least 4, if not 8.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah, we might have to see if there's no local co-op, that'll probably kind of roll it out. But I mean, there's still, if we buy a copy on Switch, and if it's crossplay, if we buy a copy on Switch, that's 2 Switches can play in, and
It's not crossplay. That's what I was saying at the beginning.
killing
That's
me.
why it's terrible. That's why I said it's.
not
I have a
crossplay or local co-op.
yeah.
Oh yeah, man, that's out.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't even think you could xCloud and play on your Xbox, because I don't think you can run 2 copies concurrently on the same Game Pass account.
Well, like it's just game sharing at that point, right? Like the way that would work. I could be wrong, but because I do know that, like, say when on my son's account, like for him to be playing a game, I have to be logged on the Xbox, so maybe it doesn't work that way. But like if I bought a copy on, say, the Switch, the 2 Switches could definitely play it, because you can play. That's how like the game sharing works, right? That's
So the co-op, the crossplay is, I think it's Steam and Xbox PC version work together. Xbox One to Series S, Series X work. PlayStation's by itself, and then Switch obviously is just Switch. So there's nothing across
right. Console platforms. Yeah. All right. Well,
anyway, it is a fun game though. We like it a lot. So, and there's supposedly some big update coming to it later this year with like one of those Stardew Valley mega add-ons.
Yeah, it's one that you could see, right? I mean, it kind of fits along the Terraria, the Stardew Valley in terms of presentation, just kind of vibe of the game, right? So it's like those 2 games set a pretty big precedent, a pretty high bar for what it means for ongoing support, ongoing free support, of ongoing updates that you don't have to pay for and everything. So, whether or not it doesn't necessarily need to like reach that bar, because that is such a high bar to reach. But it's like, even if there's at least a precedent, to set for that style of game. So hopefully it comes somewhere close to where it's like you just kind of get continued support, and the game keeps getting better and over time, and you don't get nickel and dimed for its improvements.
Yep. Cool, man. You want to I know we want to talk Avowed, but that'll be a little bit open-ended. Do you want to dive into the PlayStation State of Play that happened between last episode and this one?
Sure.
And just kind of come through some of those announcements, and then we'll jump into Avowed, and then we'll wrap up after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it makes sense to we'll probably try to be pretty quick, like, not spend too much time on these, because I think we want to talk about Avowed. And so I'll go ahead and share just this is just Polygon's article. It just kind of goes through and may or may not click. I mean, Monster Hunter it kicked off the show after a failed beta, open beta on PlayStation Network being down. So I mean, there was nothing wrong with the Monster Hunter game, I don't think. I mean, maybe there was stuff on it, but yeah, PlayStation Network was down during that weekend, and that releases at the end of the month here, right? The last day of the month. Obviously, a big release, possibly the biggest release behind if GTA hits this year and Call of Duty, right? Like, I mean, this would be one of the most notable releases of the year.
Which is crazy, because it used to be a niche franchise, right? And now it's kind of blowing up. Sorry, I know you're wanting to scroll. I was just going to pause on this one. Fine. Super excited about this game. I'm in the monster mode. Like, I'm looking up Monster Hunter, the board game. I know there's an Iceborne version coming out. It's like an updated. I've been wanting Primal the Awakening board game, which is where I also fight giant monsters. And so I've just been in this mode, and I'm so excited about this game. But now I'm playing Avowed, and I'm like, I'm not going to really have time. Like, I might as well just play Avowed and then get this later. But you always hate to miss out, like, on the co-op experience of this when people get ahead of you. So
yeah, absolutely. The board games, gosh, that sounds really like fascinating. We've talked about a little bit offline between you, Curtis, and I that I was like, I've kind of, the game group I play with locally here or whatever, we busted out a thematic game for the first time. Usually I play very dry Euro style games. For anybody that's familiar with the board games, it's kind of it's very like, typical like dusty old board game that you kind of think of, where it's like that gets made fun of for nerds, and then the thematic games are the ones where it's like you got a bunch of dice chuck in and big old figures that are popping on the board and just looks like where it's all exciting, you're trying to fight to survive or whatever. So obviously Monster Hunter is going to lean into a thematic type of game, and that sounds like man, that sounds, I don't know, just I could see that being really fun in the board game format, right? So you said there's a couple Monster Hunter board games?
Yeah. So it's by Steam Forged games. So they've done a bunch of different stuff, but they do a lot of miniatures based stuff. They've done they own the rights for a Resident Evil game. But yeah, they did a Monster Hunter World, essentially, game. And it was like 7.5 out of 10-ish reviews. The monster minis were cool. Some of the rules were like a little bit clunky at times, or maybe not as balanced. And then it had like a core box with a couple different monsters and like 4 hunters. And then you could buy a box with another monster, like this one's got the dragon or the Rathalos or whatever. But that's like 3 or 4 years old, and now within the next 6 months, maybe the new one's going to come out. And it's Iceborne based, which was the big expansion for Worlds. And it's supposedly like a 1.5 version of the board game. Like, hey, we heard your feedback on everything. Here's how we fixed everything, plus new monsters and stuff like that. So I was like, ooh, I wanted to really pick up the game, but I'm like, I might as well wait for this Iceborne and see if it's better, and if it allows you to play with the old monsters or not, or whatever. And then there's a separate game called Primal The Awakening that's from a totally different company, but it's essentially Monster Hunter without the licensing, and the game from a gameplay standpoint is supposed to be way better than the Monster Hunter board game. So anyway.
I didn't mean to derail that, but that just sounded fascinating. And then lots of board game stuff. Curtis just got his Elder Scrolls one, right?
Yep.
And that looks pretty cool. But so I'm kind of the same page as you, and I've known this for a while, that it's like, all right, I'm going to be playing Avowed. I just don't have the time for Monster Hunter. But like that open beta hit, and people are talking about it. They're talking about it on the Discord, and like you're seeing stuff online. I'm like, I'm just kind of squirming a little bit, it was very brief for Worlds, but like I bought the PS4 for Worlds, and we were playing Worlds for like a week, and or at least I stayed on it for like a week, and then it was like, man, that was one of those like great times where it's just like at a different, even from then, like if that would have been the game that I played when like Destiny, we would have been playing like when Destiny came out, like that I feel like I would have got this. You
would have been hooked.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like,
who doesn't want to hunt big monsters with your friends? It's cool, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a good time, and there's a lot there. There's so much depth to this game, right? And it's World just blew the Monster Hunter IP open, right? Like it's like you said, it was always this niche genre, and Monster Hunter World came out, and it's just world. But
you can call it whatever you want.
Right. This is Wilds, and so, but one thing I don't like is you can't just say MHW anymore. But like, oh man, come on, Capcom, you know better. But so it's just like it stings a little bit to feel like it's you're missing out on something that's going to be really exciting, like you said. But that is, sometimes that just happens, and it happens more and more at the phase of life we're in, right? So
we'll see. But, I'll probably end up buying it in like 2 weeks.
Hey, once we hit in like 30 years, when we're retiring and the kids are out of the house, the stuff, that's when it all comes back together, instead of getting together and playing like euchre or pinochle, like
that's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about.
Hopping online and playing some
no shuffleboard. All right, no shuffleboard, but Shinobi Art of Vengeance. You have interest in this game?
It looked pretty cool, right? It's a Streets of Rage studio. And I don't know.
Complete with the audio.
I'm gonna mute that. So
you can change that on the cast the tab thing. It'll say cast with audio or not.
I'll mute it so I don't have to hear it either. I don't know. But so it
looks fun.
Yeah, it does. And in like moments, it looks pretty like just like I said, Streets of Rage 4 Studio. They that was pretty well received. This looks like maybe this is a little taste of like, all right, like how much appeal does the Shinobi IP have right now? But the
Yeah, I
game
think you would like this game, man. You played Ninja Gaiden, and then this is like your Metroidvania style with it. I think this is right up your alley.
yeah, I always love the like that little hook shot to little orbs in the that platforming style stuff. So it's the Metroidvanias. I can only take so much at a time, but it's like I do love a good Metroidvania. It's just like I just need to take a little bit of I've like been playing the Prince of Persia, but this looks fun. This looks like a good time. So
Nice.
very cool. So how about you?
Yeah, I think it looks awesome. Yeah, you won't see me buying it. This is the thing, like I would hope to see in PlayStation Plus in like a year or something, and I would maybe, if I saw, I'm off of PlayStation Plus right now because of the price increase, and I have Game Pass. But let's say like in a year, I saw there was enough games I wanted to play, I'd turn it on for 6 months, and then keep going. And that's totally what I would play. It looks cool.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat, right? I have enough stuff hitting Game Pass. I mean, I might throw it on the wish list, and if it pops up, either it hits Game Pass or it hits a sale where I'm just kind of like, I'm kind of looking for something. It's like, oh, this is $3.99 or $2.49 on the Steam Deck. Well, I might as well go and grab it, right?
Yep.
And it looks like one I've been wanting to play or something. And it depends on how well it's received. I expect this to be pretty good, pretty well received. Again, it's got a pretty good studio behind it, so. But yeah, I'm kind of the same boat. I'm excited, but there's so much to play in that space, which is great. But it's easy to just kind of like, I'm just gonna pick the one that like either ones I'm most excited about in terms of like, I can be really picky about it, or I can just be picky in the terms of like price, how much it costs for me to play it. So it's like there's a lot of really great type of games in that that fit that
space,
that space, that I can play for cheap or no extra cost to me. So.
Yep.
So moving on. This Sonic Racing. Did you watch the State of Play?
I only caught highlights after. It's bad timing for me. Yeah, you might want to just recast your tab so we don't do that literally every single time. Blow out our audio. No. Okay. Blow out our audio only listeners.
Yeah.
No, I didn't watch State of Play. I went back and read about each of the games, and then I watched probably over half of the trailers. So I didn't watch this Sonic Racing Crossworlds. I was a huge Sonic R fan back in the day, PC. But it just simply, I'll pull it up. It just simply does not. The Sonic IP is not strong for me.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a great legendary IP. It's just not something I put my time into.
Yeah, it was definitely I was one of the ones that, I mean, like the first system I ever bought for myself was a Sega Genesis, right? And there was a few reasons, but like I it's like family friends, the older kid in one of the family friends groups, he had the Sega Genesis. I was like, oh, he's so cool. He knows what's cool. Sega's so cool, right? I was one of the Sega so cool suckers, right? And I don't want to say sucker in the sense of like, oh, they duped me, because like I loved my Sega Genesis, and Sonic was, just the face of that, right? This cooler than Mario face of video game. It's I'm not, there's some Sonic mega fans out there. I'm not a Sonic mega fan, but I do really still enjoy the IP. I've been enjoying the movies and stuff, which, I mean, honestly, great movies that have come out. They've really I feel like boosted the Sonic brand with the movies that have come out, right? And the most recent, Sonic 3 just came out. My kids, really enjoy Sonic. My son, especially my oldest son. So I don't know, right? It's hard to like when Mario Kart exists.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Other kart racers.
0% chance you buy this.
0% chance. All right. Well, I think there's a 0.01% chance.
0.01. It would have to be on a deep sale. I feel like.
Or
there's so many things that fill the space you already got. I feel like, and you don't go in that space a lot, right?
Yeah. Or I could see like my son watch it. Like, all right, we rewatch Sonic 3 or we watch the Knuckles show or whatever, and all of a sudden my son's like, Dad, can we get Sonic Racing? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, if you're wanting to play this one, it looks good. But it's again, it's like Mario Kart 9's coming, and it's like.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say that was my next one. Is like, there's a new Mario Kart based on the Switch trailer, so this thing's dead in the water. To us, probably that game. My box keeps falling. I'm just not gonna pick it
All right, and so here's another one that's another old 90s IP, right? So that was also the edgy version of a Nintendo brand, or I'm glad you're not getting that audio. I'm getting that audio. But
yeah, I mean, I got a little bit of it, but it was faint.
Oh, it's probably coming through my mic. My bad. But
yeah.
It's so loud.
This guy doesn't know what he's doing hosting here. Jeez.
I know, terrible. But Digimon, honestly, so it's like I've never really dived into any of the Digimon games, and there's been some up and down. I feel like historically with the games, some that I really love, some that a little bit of split or whatever. Like Digimon Survive was the last one that came out that was more of a visual novel. And then Cyber Sleuth was, I think, the one before that people liked pretty well. But it's been a while since I feel like Digimon has taken the world by storm. But it's still sticking around, and honestly, like I thought this looked pretty cool. But I don't know. Do you have any interest in Digimon in 2025?
No, not right now. I had played a lot of Digimon, the card game, when I was a kid. I watched the cartoon in the 90s, early 2000s, and yeah, I mean, Digimon's cool, man. If I had all the time in the world, I would totally play this game and give it a shot, but I don't.
Yeah, I that's kind of where I am. It's unless it just comes out and people are like, oh my gosh, this is a 95 on Metacritic.
Like
play game. Then it's like maybe I should think about it, right? Seeing these trailers and stuff for these types of games, like I'm just like, man, I miss that time, right? When it's just like this was the game I was excited about, but. So next we'll just go ahead and keep moving on here.
Lost Soul aside.
I just keep forgetting, like there's a lot of, which is great, that a lot of these just Japanese style, like, is this an action game, or there's more and more of these games hitting the West,
and this one's Chinese. This one's Chinese, right?
Yeah,
this is the China Hero Project, so this is a Chinese studio. I mean,
okay, all right. Yeah. I just get mixed up because I think there was a few Asian influenced
totally
games in the state of play that all looked, I mean, pretty good. But I'm mixing it. There's another one I think later. But
I mean, this one looked interesting, but it doesn't really give you too much, right?
Sure. But it's that
a lot of running different environments, third person action. Adventure RPG, yeah, and it's all depends, right? Like, is this what kind of combat is this? Is it Stellar Blade? Is it Ninja Blade? Is it Souls? Is it Stellar Blade was kind of was that like almost Bayonetta style, right, or DMC style, right? Which I don't know. We'll see. Do you think this looks pretty unique or no?
Does it look unique?
Yeah,
it looks. I don't want to say it, like, it just kind of looks similar.
That dragon's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool. But it gets lost in the sea to me for these games. But it's also like I haven't played a ton of these games, right? I just played Ninja Gaiden. I just talked about how Ninja Gaiden 2 Black was like a game that's like, that's something that's never like it's a style of game I've never really played. As a Nintendo guy, it's like I've had my eyes on like say Astral Chain or Bayonetta. That I'm like, I should really like jump into one of these games, and then Devil May Cry is another one. Again, I don't even know if this is like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta style, or if they're what separate.
We got a whole new genre to bust you into. Then
oh yeah, the action genre. It's just like I'm more curious now after playing Ninja Gaiden about the action genre, the action combat genre like this that is not Souls like, because it hits a different hits in a different way than a lot of the games that play, right?
Not as punishing and everything. It's definitely different.
Just a different a breath of fresh air for me in terms of like, it's not Souls like, but also it's not like the style of games that I generally play.
Man, this one Get this garbage out of here. I say that because Curtis and I were online on the Discord last weekend, and one of our listeners, Beef, was in there, and he was talking about like he came out of nowhere. He's like, "Dude, I love the Yakuza games. So huge Yakuza mega fan. He's so excited for this." So that's why I'm teasing him, saying, "Get to just scroll right by this one." But
Sure.
I have zero interest in this game, but listening to Beef talk about the games and the story, like he was convincing me. He was like, "Hey, like." Kind of running us through some of the stuff and why he's excited. And I'm like, all right, maybe I do need to pop one of these on and just play through it, give it its due diligence, you know?
Yeah, I mean, these games keep coming out, right? These Yakuza games just keep coming out. They've branched the story, I think, in a similar way that like Shin Megami and Persona branched away, right? And all this. I mean, if people weren't playing these games, buying these games, enjoying these games,
That would be cease to exist, right?
Getting a new game every year, every 6 months from the you know. So they just keep coming out. Yeah, it's definitely, but it's like I think a lot of them are long games, right? It's not like, oh, let me play this Yakuza game real quick and beat it in 15, 20 hours. It's like I think they're all like 40 hours plus, right? And some of them are like 100 hours that you put into. I'm just like, oh man, to find, you know, it's just like to say I'm going to go ahead and jump into a game again, even if it's 40 hours, that's probably 60, 70 hours for me. I'm like that for a franchise that like doesn't like on the surface look like something that's necessarily for me, but like I'm just interested in because people seem to love these franchises and they're really like, you know, some people are playing every one of these game releases that come out and they're just so into this, like, you know, it's got a pretty passionate fan base.
Yeah. So, the length varies, by the way, but Like a Dragon was 45 and a half hours, right? So
yeah. Right,
it's meaty depending on which one you play, so that's good though. I mean, I'm excited for him. Like I hope this game's good and that the Yakuza fan like it. And when I get some time, I might dive into like I don't know, Like a Dragon or any of them. Maybe Beef will recommend one, like Yakuza 0 or something.
Yeah. I think you know there's a possibility where it's like somebody passionate enough comes in and is just like, dude, you've got to play this game. It's or you know, like or not, you know, obviously I don't think any of these games are like Zelda, but they also do like these riffs on like other franchises, right? I think the one prior to this was like an Animal Crossing riff, right? And I don't know if it was like a DLC or what it was, but like they all have these vastly different, like, I mean, they change up the gameplay wildly and this franchise and stuff. I mean, some of them are action-based combat, some of them are turn-based combat, and they just kind of go from there. I think the Like a Dragon might be the turn-based. I can't remember exactly which is which, but they also, you know, they do these it's almost parody and as well, like, you know, some of the stuff they do, like they like it was like a blatant ripoff of Animal Crossing, but it's just like a lot less like, you know, just I don't know, just bizarre and stuff.
And this wasn't the only Yakuza game in the state of play. As we scroll to the next one,
right? So yeah, Ichiban, Ichiban's Holiday. So
yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I'm assuming that I don't have a lot to say on this one. So this is probably one we can go pretty quick on. But yeah, the Dave the Diver DLC, right?
Yep. Yeah. I have played like about half an hour of Dave the Diver. I think you've played a little more. I can see myself
many hours
into this game, but at some point, you know, it's but yeah.
Another thing that I think is awesome here, but it's for me, it's not gonna. I'm not like, oh my gosh, the DLC's got to come out. I got to go running back now. Personally, when the Godzilla one dropped, I was like, oh, I got to go back and play Dave the Diver, right? So it's just all about what you prefer. I'm not a Yakuza fan yet, so this isn't making me go boot up Dave the Diver.
Sure, yeah. I'm in agreement. And we'll move on. And then you are really excited for WWE 2K25, right? You haven't stopped talking about it.
The Island. You know what I think is on short form media like Instagram and stuff. I enjoy watching these little clips of WWE because it's fun. Like I'm not somebody that's going to invest all this time and stuff. My wife's cousin is a super mega fan, like ultra mega fan. Camp out and meet people and be front row and everything, which is cool. My wife's cousin.
Okay. I thought I dropped the cousin part from my brain. I was like, How did I not know your wife was a huge WWE?
Yeah, no. But so I live vicariously through her because she posts like all these Snapchats and reels and stuff of that. But I can take it in that bit because it's fun to see like these antics and stuff. But to like go play a game or be super invested in it is just not for me. And this the island thing is the equivalent of when they went
My player.
with the My Player in the park and all that stuff, and then they can just monetize from NBA. So thumbs down, pass.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. I loved like back in the N64, the all those wrestling games were like the rental games for like I loved renting those games and playing those with friends or whatever. And it was just like I was never into wrestling. Like I was never. It was like WCW and WWF. I think when we were kids, right? And it's just like I definitely had friends that were into it, and I was just like I could never watch it, right? Like, and it's like, that's fine. There's plenty of things that I watch that people are like, oh, I could never watch that. It's like, I get it, but like, it was just never for me. Right. But like the wrestling games are fun. And like, apparently 2K24 was a good return for the franchise or whatever, like a good step forward. But it's funny. Like I listened to the Spawncast and, apparently this was like a couple of the hosts most played game last year was 2K24 or whatever, but it's like it wasn't a game they like and it's not like a game like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite game ever. It's just like it was the game that they would play to wrap up the night every single night. It's just like, oh, let's go jump in, play a couple of rounds of WWE. But and then RGT85 is just absolutely ripped apart the island thing, which is justifiable. He's also a big NBA fan, and he hates the My Park and the My Player and all that stuff, and the way it just milks the player base dry, right? Just reaching into the pockets, it feels gross.
Speaking of gross, here comes Randy Pitchford.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Do I even put his face on our show here?
No, you don't. We'll just leave the screenshot. Not a Randy Pitchford fan.
Yeah, but you were a Borderlands fan, right? So,
yeah. So I'm interested to see how this game reviews and what people say about it, and I want to see behind the curtain of any type of monetization and stuff like that. Because man, I loved Borderlands 1 and 2. 3 fell off for me. So we'll see what 4's got in store. I like the franchise. Don't love the practices from Gearbox.
Sure. One big takeaway, Borderlands is definitely a franchise that like every time I look at it on paper, every time I watch a trailer, I'm like, this should be a game for me, right? Like even from that, I remember us seeing the first announcement for the first Borderlands on the 360, and I'm like, at first I was like, is this 4-player local co-op Fallout? Because that's what it looked like, right? And it's not. There's some elements maybe to it and stuff. But like, I mean, it just looks like a really fun. I mean, shooters, first-person shooters and stuff aren't necessarily, but it's like my thing. But post-apocalyptic, a little bit of some RPG elements, right? And all the stuff that are in it, and it's just like, and again, just having fun going around shooting things with it's stylized art and all this stuff. Like it just looks like, and I think there's a way for me to get like for this franchise to grab its hooks on me. I'm not necessarily always like clamoring for it too, just because like you said, like I'm not necessarily like looking to be behind Randy Pitchford, but I would say my biggest takeaway from this was 2K releasing a game on September 20, a big game for them on September 22nd, and we just were told that there is another big game from 2K that is still coming in 2025 was what they told investors, whether it does or not. But September 22nd being when Borderlands 4 releases, which this has got to be outside of their sports titles, right? Out of like 2K, WWE, and all that stuff. Like Borderlands is probably got to be their second biggest game behind GTA, right?
Yep.
Borderlands is a big release for them. So they're not going to release GTA on September 29th if Borderlands 4 comes out September 22nd, right? They're not going to release GTA on September 15th they're not going to release.
So we know it's not in September, basically, and maybe not even October or August.
Yeah, at least not early October, right? I think that this has got to. Yeah, so I think if we get and I can't imagine it if it's not going to be September. I can't imagine it being before September that we get GTA. So
yeah, it's probably November and into Black Friday and Christmas, right? It's got to be console bundles, all the whole shebang, right?
Yeah. So it was to me, this was like at least indicative of like, all right, we are looking at late October.
That was the most exciting part of the announcement for you. You're like, ooh, I got some
right. Most notable, right? The most
details.
like, I was like, wait, this is a 2K game. Because I was like, my first thought was like, wow, that's really ballsy of them to just go ahead and put that hard September 22nd date for a video game. When
you're like, wait a second.
Like, oh, they don't have to wait for the GTA.
Same company. Yeah.
Right. It's the same. They know when that GTA is coming. So it's like, I'm like, all right, with this coming on September 22nd, like how many studios are going to be like, all right, September 15th, I'm dropping my game because I know I'm not competing with GTA at that time for that. It gives some other publishers some room or a little bit of breathing room to like, okay, it'll be safe to announce my game for this date. Until they're
all
like,
right,
we're going to
go ahead.
All right. We're halfway point.
Yeah. We're halfway point, and we're not even halfway through State of Play. So let's do quick thoughts on the games, unless we really want to hit them because we want to talk about.
We talked Split Fiction, right? So I don't know how much more we got to talk about it. It's coming soon. You said March.
Yep. March.
All right. Yeah, looks great. Directive. Did you? I have no. Is this a Dark Pictures? Yeah, this is a Dark Pictures game. These always I see these games all the time. They look interesting. I'm not big on like horror games, and this is definitely a horror game, right?
Yeah,
so
Alien inspired to.
It comes out in October, which is the right time for those games. And another Five Nights at Freddy's. You into Five Nights at Freddy's?
Nope, I'm beyond that age group, I think.
I would be really curious to hear if any of our listeners are into Five Nights at Freddy's. It'd just be interesting, no shame if you are or not. I'd just be curious, like sometimes I see franchises that I'm like, or games that I'm just like, I wonder, like, because we are not like none of the hosts on this channel are into some of these games, and I'm like, I wonder how much like
sell us on Five Nights at Freddy's in the comments or in the Discord.
Yeah,
sell us.
The Midnight Walk described.
I looked at this. It was okay. Wasn't blown away. I was just like,
yeah, and it's a VR release, so it's gonna be it's not only VR, but it's like it's a VR game, and it's
exactly. And it's one of those another one like kind of spooky and it almost like stop motion type.
Right. Yeah. No. I agree. It's I mean, it kind of looks neat. It's got a cool art style for my perspective, but I think we're safe to move on. Then there's Darwin's Paradox. There's an octopus.
Were you excited about this one?
I don't think so. I kind of forget. Like I remember an octopus game, but I don't really remember what I saw.
This one didn't really excite me. I was just I watched it because I'm like, ooh, like this game kind of looks different, right? You're looking for something unique, and I watched it and I'm like, okay, like
so gameplay, it makes me think of Limbo Inside, Somerville, and Little Nightmares is that's actually a game I started right after I played Ninja Gaiden. I think shout out to ATB for hooking me up with that. But it was, it's just like this style of gameplay. It just that's another thing that's like, all right, it's indie. It's got this side scrolling. It's puzzly and atmospheric, but they just haven't. Like I beat Limbo and then I started up Inside, and it was just like I felt very like just okay on the games, and I kind of was feeling the same thing about Little Nightmares, and it's like I don't know what it is that isn't grabbing me in these games.
It's like if this doesn't do anything new, it's just a different skin or a different story. Like, is it worth your time, right? After you've beaten those other ones,
right, and and it just like there's more. I don't want to say giants, but like just critically acclaimed. There's already established games in in this type of style of game, this style that are highly acclaimed that I wasn't into. So it's just like I don't expect this to be able to provide anything for me anyway.
Warriors fan.
No, I'm not. It was
Yeah.
interesting. This was a roguelike Warriors game, right? Yeah. And then that was a shadow drop, it looks like. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I would maybe try it on PS Plus, maybe, but no interest at this point.
Yeah. So what's more appealing to you, the Warriors gameplay or the roguelike?
The roguelike.
Yeah. Okay. I was just sure. I was like, I don't know. I don't think you've played any of these Warriors.
I've played some of the old
or
Dynasty,
really
Dynasty Warriors 1 through 4, like back in the day, but that was it. Yeah. So.
Sure. All right.
Onimusha 2, you're hyped about this one?
I mean, after seeing
it must be.
Yeah, I stopped and played the. I mean, I think this is a notable game in the show. This is another action style game, right? But and this is this
this is a remake, right? Or is it a remaster?
Onimusha 2. There was this to me was the Ninja Gaiden of the State of Play, right? It was a remake. There was a remaster and I think a new game coming. And this is the remaster one. It's like, yeah, that's great for the PlayStation side. This was PlayStation showing for this. To me, it's like I've got Game Pass games that are coming that are similar, so it's just like unless it's a Game Pass, right? I'm probably out. But it's cool to see some of these legacy like Asian IP, a lot of the Japanese and stuff franchises from when we were growing up, right? That are kind of making a
resurgence.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to see.
And what was the next Onimusha one?
Yeah, Way of.
You want to pause here?
Yeah.
There you go. Now this was a bigger announcement, right? So it's supposed to release in 2026.
Yeah. And
did this one have you hyped, or did this one perk your ears up? And
so again, it's just like we'll see how it's received and how much I love, like, say, Ninja Gaiden 4. If I plan on jumping into that now after playing Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. And when that hits Game Pass, and then it's just like, all right, I might have to, because I believe most of these games in the State of Play were multi-plat, right? There was a little bit of
big criticism that there was not a lot of first party titles.
Right. Yeah. And so this is I'll certainly keep my eye on it, and if it's well received, it's like, again, this is a genre, this is a style of game that I am at least a little bit interested in. Was there any gameplay? Yeah, it looks
there is.
But
the trailer said mix of in-engine gameplay and cinematic footage. So,
how about you? Have you played any Onimusha in the past? Are you excited about this one?
Yeah, I've played Onimusha before. It's been a long, long time, so it's not it's a pretty storied franchise, but it's not one I follow strongly. But this looks fun. I mean, it looks fun, so it's something I would keep my eye on and potentially play, depending on what platform it comes to.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, like I said, again, I saw a lot of just what the feel anyway, the atmosphere that I got from Ninja Gaiden. So definitely keep my eye on it, right?
There's the big one. So this was the big not controversy, but a little bit of talk about. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So are you talking about Ape Escape versus Bomberman?
Yes. So, for the audio only listeners, this is Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. So this is a remake of the Metal Gear Solid 3. And then there was a reveal that there's like a Ape Escape mode, which I think was in the original one too, like where you could go catch the apes. But for the non-PlayStation trailer, since it's multi-plat, it showed Bomberman instead of the ape on the like title card type thing, right?
Yep. Yeah. Which is interesting. So some I heard I've seen some feedback on it, just like, I think I'd rather have Bomberman, which, man, I don't know. I like Ape Escape.
It's cool. Ape Escape's cool.
It's just like that to me is like, I think there's really like, it would take a lot for me to buy a PlayStation at this right now, but like a new Ape Escape game is something, I'm sure I'm one of few people that's something that would at least, like a new Ape Escape game would be more enticing for me to buy a PlayStation than a new Last of Us or a new God of War game, to be honest. Like,
Right.
But again, but it would also have to use some unique features of the PlayStation or something, because it's like I would just expect to be able to play that on PC or on my Steam Deck,
Yep.
which is like again why Astrobot is like the to me the most enticing thing to buy a PlayStation 5 is because I'm not sure that so for the video watcher, for the people that are watching, that was the Ape Escape mode. So the little Ape Escape guy that popped up. But I played a lot of Ape Escape on my PSP. And man, I don't know. That's a me kind of game, right? So I'd love to see a return to that franchise. But anyway, I was saying, Astrobot just kind of uses unique features that you can only get on at least the PlayStation controller. But so I'm curious to see if Astrobot ever hits PC because it's so tied to the controller. Or if that's one that just stays glued to the platform. And to me, that's a reasonable one to stay glued to the platform, even though you can use a DualSense on PC. It's like, oh, for the best play, you have to go buy this you have to buy this $60 game plus the $70 controller. Like I would just be, I mean, I would love for it to hit PC for me personally, but that would be, and it
Total
would be
cost of ownership still less.
So right. So there may still be some, and maybe it is playable. I don't know how playable it would be. You'd have that with different controllers, right? I mean, the Steam Deck itself has some touch controls on the screen. It has some haptic feedback, right? But not the triggers,
not the same, but
and it's got gyro and all that stuff, right? So
but 35 minutes left, 11 games still in the state of play.
Oh crap! Okay,
yeah, we're talking way too long on these. You don't even need to really play it, to be honest, because that's where we just start talking long. Hell Is Us, I thought looked really interesting. I think someone in the Discord might have commented like, "Where's the originality?" With generally a lot of these games being announced, which I kind of agree with, is like sci-fi type character attacking and fighting, and like the. Do you remember what this one is?
No, that's why if I don't remember what it is, I'm gonna
go for it. Yeah, no problem. This one looked really interesting to me. So you'll get some more of the gameplay towards the end here, but kind of like this action RPG type with like a crazy sci-fi. It's got like that Darth Vader looking moment where his sword's lit up. You can see you fight all these different creatures and stuff like that, and you're kind of this mystery element of like, okay, what is going on here? So
cool. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe for me, but it sounds like you're pretty excited for it.
It piqued my interest a lot. So
that's cool.
Next one, you got Lies of P Overture. So this supposedly was so big they thought about making it as like a sequel, but it's prequel, right? Sorry.
Is this?
I messed up what I was trying to say. Yeah, I was trying to mess up what I was saying. They were originally doing a DLC, and it was so big they turned it into another game.
Okay.
Sorry,
okay.
It's late at night here, guys.
Yeah. Okay, so they for some reason I thought that
it was a Tears of the Kingdom type situation. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. No. For some reason I thought it was just DLC. So that's interesting. I started Lies of P, and it's a Souls-like, and I just kind of I thought it was kind of cool. I like the setting and everything, but just how it's a time sink to just such a it's punishing to move anywhere, to kind of make any progress in the game. And it's
I made it halfway through the game, and phase 2 of the halfway boss just broke me, and I just never played it again.
Yeah. So I'm
excited about this.
Yeah, so this seems interesting, right? It's a shooter, a game by Bion, which he was like I can't, whoever Bion was. I want to say he did some music for, I can't remember what game, but it's like so it's a shooter that like builds things instead of destroys things when you shoot. So like you've got like these grenade launchers, these AK, and it's like as you shoot it creates things. It's a very very artsy game, right? I don't know. I think it looks like you said, like something that looks different, right? This definitely looks different. It definitely looks like it does something unique. So this is certainly one I will be paying attention to. Again,
I'd love to hear like more about it and how players and reviewers and streamers find the game. Like, Is it fun? Obviously, this is not going to blow the doors off and be the next Call of Duty or something like that. It's a story. It's a smaller, tighter story focused third person shooter where you have this unique piece. So,
yep.
Next one,
Days Gone remastered. Did you play Days Gone originally?
Nope, on my list. I actually had it on the wish list in Steam to pick it up when it was really cheap. And I think it was on Steam, right? Like really cheap, or it was on wherever it was on sale during the holidays, and it just didn't make the cut for me. But I will get it eventually. I'm interested in playing it.
Okay, yeah, this was one that got definitely some. This has been like the butt of the joke for a while because it's been rumored for a while, and it's just kind of like this game that they were going to do a sequel for, but they didn't because the first one wasn't critically, it was like in the 70s, and PlayStation only wants 90s, and then like they talk about the remaster, and there's like, why does this remaster exist if you're not even gauging interest for a sequel? If you canceled the sequel, like all this stuff, and it's like also the first one still looks really good, and definitely, and it's only a $10 upgrade for those that own it, unless you got it through like the
plus
free game
monthly,
yeah.
DLC here for Stellar Blade.
This Nikkei,
not much to say, right?
IP keeps popping up. I feel like, right? That's that very that what I don't know. It's just I don't know what the game is. It's almost like I don't know. A lot of like pinks and floral and
you're mixing it up with Infinity Nikki?
Yes, I am.
Or no?
Is that not what?
Yeah, it's not the same thing. No,
just kidding.
Yep. So, anyway, next one, Blueprints. I want to get to Avowed. So
yeah. Blueprints. What was this game? Genre bending, atmospheric.
I didn't. This sounds like your type of game.
That looks like my type of game.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm watching the State of Play for the first time again.
It's because it was so boring.
A lot of stuff I kind of forgot about. Yeah, right.
No, this looks cool and interesting. Ever changing manner of 45 shifting rooms you got to explore. So it's cool.
Okay,
I'd be interested to play this.
Yeah, definitely. This looks like my style of game. I mean, the ever changing. I don't know how I feel about that, but definitely something just like a game I like to explore the narrative and everything for. So I will definitely. This is probably I'm gonna go add this on my wish list once we get done. Blueprints. That is. Did we say Blueprints?
Yep.
All right. Abiotic Factor. I want to say this one looked pretty cool. I'm just trying to remember all these games. I remember all the names. I don't remember the watching the trailers. But do you remember this one? Was this one you were interested in at all? This is not.
I remember reading about this and I thought it was okay. Is this not a game that's already? Yes, it's already out. Okay, that's what I thought. In early access on PC. Yes. No, I've heard good things, but it's again like another one of those games where it's like zeitgeist and you need to play with some friends and
yep.
Okay, the final 4 games. This is where it gets a little more interesting.
Sure.
What did you think of
Tides of Annihilation?
Yeah, what did you think about this trailer?
Dude, I'm tired. I'll tell you, I can't remember. What you tell me what you thought, and then as we watch it here, I'll tell you. It comes back to my memory.
I thought it looked pretty cool, and it gave me a little bit of Final Fantasy vibes with the quality and the direction of the trailer, but just in general, it looked cool. So you can see this like mythical creature like devouring London, coming out of the ocean, and all these crazy things happening. Like, look at this dude. Look at this giant like 4-armed monster. Look at this like cool. Shadow of the Colossus type. Yep. So you can see some platforming, action, adventure, maybe some genre bending, like what's the game with 2B in it?
Near Automata.
Yeah, so I got a little bit of that in there. But then you can see the general fighting here. Like, this had me pretty heavily interested. Like, okay, what's this all about? I'd love to see more about this because there's a lot of badass looking things in here.
Yeah, this got compared to like Final Fantasy 16, or I believe. I've not played Final Fantasy 16, but that now you mentioned Final Fantasy. No, I mean it's obviously it's got the set pieces, right? That just like wow, this game looks wow. So definitely want to keep the eyes on. I know it got a lot of attention. It looks cool. Yep. Sounds like you'll be keeping your eye on it then.
Yeah, definitely will be watching this one.
Um,
Metal Eden. What do you think of this one? Or you don't remember it?
Go ahead. Yeah,
This
no,
guy, this
you
guy
just
doesn't remember it.
listen. I haven't watched it. I watched this when it came out a week and a half ago, and I have not
Yeah. Another one that looked somewhat interesting to me, but I can get the point of like people's like, oh, it's just more sci-fi shooter, first person shooter, and it's like wall running, fast paced, like think like Doom 2016 speed.
Okay.
So
All right. Yeah. Anytime we see wall running in a shooter, I think of Titanfall 2.
yeah.
I mean, this looks cool.
You see the similarities to like Doom, like kind of frantic moving and dodging and
yeah, if
shooting.
there's a shooter for me, right? Like you mentioned, if you bring up something like Doom, Titanfall 2,
Hmm.
Halo, I mean the again, I guess sci-fi shooters, but those are going to be more interesting to me than if you say something like Call of Duty or yeah, I don't know, a lot of these other franchises. There are shooters out there
Yeah.
for me, and this if it comes out and it's good, and it's
As
will
far
this
as I know, it's just a one player. I didn't think that
yeah, I
was a
would say I think
multiplayer thing.
which
Um,
again is a good a something good for
Positive
me.
for you.
Positive,
Yeah.
yeah. And,
All right. Last two of this show. Mind's
so, what
Eye.
did you think of Mind's Eye before you ask me? And I have to rewatch the trailer.
This one didn't really hook me in. So you can
Okay,
see the tagline is AI and human greed collide in Mind's Eye, according to its developer. The way
yeah,
that's worded is like we don't know what the hell this is about.
right. Well, I mean that's how any of Kojima's games start out, right?
That's true.
So we don't know what these are, and AI and human greed collides. Like that sounds like almost less cryptic than Kojima is with.
Yeah.
But um, it kind of looks GTA ish. Um, and GTA meets like sci-fi, like cyberpunk, like not quite cyberpunk because it doesn't look as like
Hmm.
as futuristic, but um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's
Yeah, this
got
is
a
where I
feel.
lean more into like people saying, "Oh, generic thing," like
Yeah, yeah.
a little like it's.
Generic
I
things.
don't, I don't want to say uninspired, but it's like we're getting more and more of the same of these things, and this happens in all culture, right? Like you see like movies, and it's like coincidentally within the same 2 to 3 years, like very similar types of movies come out. You know what I mean? So
Right, right.
it's gonna
It
hit
looks
that.
like a like it was just like a instead of a name generator, it was like a game generator or something. Like give me,
Yeah,
like and it's just like okay, let's throw a little bit GTA in there, a little bit of cyberpunk. Let's,
yeah.
oh, there's that movie I Robot. Let's throw that in there
I
too.
was literally gonna say iRobot.
But,
All right, this is
yeah,
this is a big
so
one.
it's like for me, I'm like if maybe this game is all right. Man, it just moved me on. That's fine.
Yeah, because I wanted to talk. I want to hear your thoughts on Avowed. So, the
Yeah.
final one is what?
Saros. So we have Saros, a follow up from Housemark, who made Returnal, and Returnal has been one of your favorite PlayStation games, right? This generation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. So, go ahead. What do you think of
uh,
this trailer?
I mean, I thought it looked cool. I have not played Returnal, the roguelike type of thing. I'm not sure how I feel about it in the shooter and stuff, but it's just like so I mean, maybe I should try out Returnal on a good sale or something on the Steam Deck or something. But um, I will let you speak more to it because I think you're going to have more strong feelings about it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think people that have not played Returnals probably saw this and like, here we go again, another dude in a sci-fi like half mech suit with a gun. But really, what tips it away here is at the end when we see this the reflection in the eyes and then like the demon god thing coming up with the multiple arms and the orbs. Those were a specific attack from one of the bosses in the game. Returnal, amazing game, graphics fantastic, narrative and story actually really good, and like a mystery like pulling you in. The runs do get long in that game is one of the problems, right? So like if you really want to progress and like beat the game, you're gonna when you get really good and you're getting really far, you're gonna play for like an hour to an hour and a half, which could be a turnoff. So hopefully maybe they find some ways to fix that in this one. But the mystery and the sci-fi ness of it was really cool for that game. It's a third person shooter that's kind of you move around fast and you get different upgrades and stuff. I mean, I can't say enough good things about the game. I would highly recommend playing Returnal if you haven't, either like a demo or on discount or whatever.
So my takeaway here is from the Saros trailer is that the Saros trailer had people talking more about Returnal than Saros, right? Because there's nothing. It was just a cinematic.
Yeah.
And this says that there will be a game trailer later this year for Saros, but it's like all you can really say is like, okay, Housemarque did Returnal. This looks a lot like Returnal. Returnal was amazing, right? And it's like, wait, where are we talking about Saros here? But so it's funny, you had me thinking when you said that there was on either like Reddit or Blue Sky or that other site, you'll see like a post where it's like 10 out of 10 narrative, 10 out of 10 gameplay, 10 out of 10 visuals or whatever. What game is this for you? And I was like, wow, that Returnal must be that game for Mark here.
But, man, I love that game. I played it on PlayStation Plus when I first got my PS5, and it was awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, we have gotten through the state of play here. I thought it was a pretty good state of play. Clearly I didn't think it was something amazing because I forgot most of it. But I remembered the names, forgot the trailers. But I mean, I think the biggest problem is that people are like, oh, this is a third party showcase, and I want to say, like, if you just put this next to the developer direct that we had in January, that was really well received. This might be a better showcase, right? It showed a lot more. It showed a lot more games. If you just look at, but I think I personally think that like the reason this got such like so much more criticism is that like there was no. PlayStation did not set expectations going into it, where it's like the Xbox does a really good job at saying like especially for the developer directs, like if you went in like, all right, big Xbox showcase coming, and then you come in, you show 4 games, like people are probably going to be pretty disappointed, right?
Yeah.
But what they do is they show first party games that are coming to Game Pass is a majority of what they show, and then they
let you know what is going to be shown.
Yeah. There's going to be,
and if there's going to be a mystery or not.
Right. And it's like, and then they even have like a little bit extra with the Ninja Gaiden 2 Shadow Drop, right? So so I honestly like I think that I was like, the showcase I thought was pretty good. I had no expectations going into it, and as somebody who doesn't own a PlayStation, it's like I'm certainly not hurt by anything I'm not bothered by anything that isn't some first party exclusive. In fact, that is more appealing to me for the showcase because that means I will get to play these games, right? If I want to. But and then there was also maybe there was just some filler there that was like, that kind of watered it down a little bit for people as well, where it's like Xbox Direct was like, all right, we're gonna cut it down to like just quality stuff, right? And I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just think I think generally people are looking, hey man, what are these PlayStation studios cooking? And I think people that follow the leaks and the news and rumors know that it's nothing because they've been canceled because they're doing live service games. And so, Gen Pop and maybe somewhere like you where it's like, oh, that was good. It was fine. I'm excited. But I think Gen Pop or maybe even more dedicated PlayStation gamers are like, hey, what are your teams doing and where are the cool games? Like, we're used to your kick-ass games that you've had for the past couple of years. What's going on? And they're falling over because they're paying for their mistakes.
Feels like it's been a couple of years, right?
Yeah,
but because it's that service game kick was. I feel like that's going to be pretty. We're going to see some pretty big
effects.
Over the next like 5 years, right? And I think. I don't know. I'm curious to see what the conversation for some of these, really all like the 4 big, Valve, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox is. Just how they're the state of these platforms in come 2030 and what it looks like and how it's changed over the last over these next 5 years. But all right, so I mean enough about that, right?
I tried to give you the whole episode for Avowed, and you're like,
let me talk about this game, the system.
You said the state of play for like an hour on a system you don't have. So this is the Evan effect, waxing poetic about the state of play with no first party games and no PlayStation.
It's like, oh, we're on a time crunch. I'm gonna just try to talk faster as opposed to say fewer things.
You do that, yeah. I noticed. You sounded like a mouse. No, you didn't.
All right, so Avowed. So we've both been playing Avowed. I've got about 12 hours into it. Mark, I think you also have about 12 hours into it, right? So we're pretty comparable in time played. Again, I'd probably have more if I wasn't trying to share the Xbox with my wife recently, which is a first. But yeah, so I came into this game. I mean, this has been one of my most hyped games for this year. Since we've had any idea as to when it was coming, when it was announced, I was like, all right, this is going to be Outer Worlds. What Outer Worlds is to Fallout, but for Skyrim, right? Like Obsidian's like snack size Skyrim. Been very excited about this game. And I've honestly, like, I've not paid a whole lot of attention other than like the new trailers and stuff that come out around the conversation about it. Cause I didn't really need it. Right. And I was like, I'm not going to risk, getting spoiled on anything. I mean, story's not a huge thing for me, but I was just like, I know I'm going to play this game. I know it's going to suck me in. I know I'm going to put however much time. I looked at how much time I played Outer Worlds. Right. So that's a game that takes 17 hours, I think, or something like that on how long to beat, and then like 25 hours for like story plus and extras, and then like completionist is like 40 hours. I have like 90 hours on Outer Worlds. I don't know if I left. I don't know if I left the game open one night or something, and like
possible. Don't even
added 15 hours or something like that. But I'm like, how did I put 90 hours into Outer Worlds? So I was like, because I was like trying to get a gauge of how much time I was like I might put into this, and honestly, I might do the same thing.
The developers are looking at their player stats and they're like, who's the guy putting in 90 hours?
So yeah, right. I'm really curious to see where you are along, how far you've progressed in the story compared to where I've progressed in the story in about the same amount of time. So my first thoughts, honestly, the first few hours, I was kind of like, like I had to slowly peel back the Skyrim expectations of it, right? Because while there's certainly overlap there, right? The interactivity with the world that you have, say in Skyrim, is not present here, right? And so
Skyrim's more of an immersive sim than this is.
Yes. You can't open every dresser. You can't, you can't loot every item. Even the bodies. It's just like, it just kind of gives you a little like light sprite or whatever, to let you know if that body is lootable or not, right? As opposed to Skyrim is completely every single body is always lootable, and you can even put crap back onto the body, right? And this is not that type of thing. It does have exploration, right? The map is a lot smaller than something like Skyrim, which is fine. And I would say the game map that you open up and look at does not tell the whole story as you continue to play the game, right? So and I'll dive into that a little bit here because I want to move to you and get some of your thoughts as well. But honestly, my first few hours were a little bit less where I was like, I'm gonna play through this game. I know I'm gonna enjoy it, but like I've still got to play more to see here where the hook is for me. And so I want to see, what your thoughts were, your initial impressions playing this game were.
Yeah, sure. I didn't go into it thinking it was going to be similar to Skyrim. I think I knew that it would be a truncated type of Skyrim, which was right up my alley. I think I've talked in the previous episodes and in the Discord recently that like the long games are too long right now. Like I love them. I love the Cyberpunk. I love the Baldur's Gate 3. I put 200 hours into Baldur's Gate 3. It's very hard to find that time right now. So for something like this to come along and be like, hey, all that stuff you like, we're going to trim the fat and you're going to be able to play a cool fantasy action RPG or adventure RPG in half the time. I was like, okay, sweet. This sounds cool. But it's lived up to that expectation. For the background, I've played Pillars of Eternity 1, not 2. I do have it installed because I want to go back to it. But this is literally like they plucked you and put you into Pillars of Eternity in first person, which I thought was really cool. Story-wise, you asked like where I was, I think, right?
Yeah.
Not far. So these are spoilers for anybody that's listening. So go ahead and that's your warning to go ahead and mute this. But I am still in Paradise. I've been in there. Have you been hit? Have you gone into Paradise?
No.
Okay. I won't say that there's a big thing that happens when you go into Paradise. So
okay. Yeah. So I
just went into Paradise like an hour or two ago, probably 2 hours ago.
So So where I am in story lies, I have completed one objective in the main quest.
Okay.
Um,
There's a lot to do and a lot to explore. I actually wanted to ask you, can you give me two positives of the game and two negatives? Like if you just had to like,
okay.
hey, I played 12 to 15 hours, like two positives, two negatives.
Sure. The positives, uh, I had some thoughts on the visuals and stuff that I was going to say, but I will say the positives. Exploration is certainly
Okay.
the exploration, and um, and kind of along the same lines is like the verticality of the map, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that like the map that you see that you pull up to look at does not tell us the whole story, and that's kind of where I was kind of leaning to is like there is a that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up in terms of the map, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's um there's the way that it loops around and stuff, and the way that you just like I was exploring the map, right, and I like went and I fought one of these like just whatever mini bosses or whatever throughout the map that you find
Mm-hmm.
like a little area and it's like a named boss comes up, right? And I went through that encampment or whatever, beat that encampment, and then I like went and I'm playing another couple hours or whatever, and I'm doing all this stuff and hitting little story beats or whatever, and or like side story beats, right? And then I'm coming around and then like I'm going down this path and I was like, huh, where this takes me? And I'm going, I was like, oh, this took me right back to where that named boss was, you know? And I just like, I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was really neat because it was just completely like, I took this long route and then I was like, oh, there's like a real shortcut right here that like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like the way that that they add again,
Designed it. Yeah.
yeah. So the design of the map really, really, really cool.
So
But
exploration slash the map is one. What's your other positive?
that was two, I thought. No,
Mhm.
the way they reward exploration was kind of like I guess what I was alluding to, because
Okay.
they're, you get your unique weapons, and I will say, okay, the way that they handle magic combat,
Ah,
um,
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that it's so cool. I've never really had like a grimoire, right? It's action combat, and I'm gonna make a comparison. Okay, so now I'm gonna answer your question first. Sorry. I got
That would
so
be
much to
appreciated.
say about this game, right? So yeah, I will say the way that specifically magic combat is handled, right? So it's like being a mage in something like Skyrim. It's like it's doable, it's fine, but it's like for me, it's never like been something that I'm like it just feels so like I really have to change the way I think and stuff, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like I don't know, it just felt so like I went into this game like I was like, all right, I'm gonna avoid magic. I'm not gonna pick. I usually pick a high intellect
Mm-hmm.
character or whatever. I didn't do that this time because I was like, I'm not gonna do magic. I don't ever do magic.
Yeah.
So why would I think I'm gonna do magic now? And then
Yeah.
um, and then like so I just kind of went into this like fully expecting to just skip the magic, and now it's like I just do that in a gun, like whatever the rifle is,
Mm.
and um,
Extremely popular online, by the way. The gun with a grimoire.
oh well, I'm using the long gun as my second loadout.
Okay, so you're swapping.
Yeah, and then I have a grimoire and a wand for my
Yeah.
other loadout, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
and I
The pistol and the
and I like
grimoire is very popular. So go
I
ahead.
like the wand. So the wand honestly just feels like a medium rate of fire gun.
Yeah,
A
yeah, yeah.
handed gun. Because it doesn't use essence or mana or magic or whatever. Like it doesn't hit the magic meter. It actually hits your
Mm-hmm.
stamina for use. Uh,
Yep.
um, so those are a couple positives. A couple of negatives. Let's see. I will say one negative for me was the interactivity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of I wish there was a little more to that interactivity. Um, and I do have other negatives. I'm trying to think of what one would be. Do you want to give any of your positives and negatives
No,
while I'm
I want to
thinking?
hear your negative first because
Okay.
it might be a positive for me.
Okay. So I am going to say, cheese. Um, and it's again probably related to the interactivity and the wanting it to be like Skyrim or Zelda or something like that, which is a knock on myself as opposed to the game maybe. But the
Yeah.
fact that the like invisible walls are a lot more present than I was hoping for. So like
Mm.
you can't just oh, I see that and I can go there. It's not that, right? Like
Yeah.
It is to an extent, but I was hoping for more.
Yeah, and there are certain things you do see, like if you go out to the beach, there's like rocks out there, or little like almost mini islands beyond what you can go to. And I
Yeah,
ran into that a little bit, and I was just like, like I
because
wasn't
there
so
are
upset that it
islands.
would be a negative, but I can see why it would be for you because that's your
Yeah.
play style.
Right. I just like I want to go anywhere I can see. I just want to go anywhere and everywhere. And it's like there are islands that you can go to, and
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, I'm gonna go to the other ones. You're like, oh, I can't. And there's a lot of like you can't just like like and say like even things that you can get to aren't necessarily accessible because you can't climb up them or you
Mhm.
can't like there's not a way to necessarily get to them.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, I guess I'll do my two positives, two negatives. So two positives. I won't do the same ones as you, although I agree with your positives. But just for the sake of making the podcast entertaining, we'll do different. One of my positives is your negative. So the fact that you can't interact with everything, huge positive. I already tipped my hand on this earlier a little bit ago, but the fact that I kind of went up and I was trying to feel out the game. I'm like, oh, look, I can grab this potion. Or like I saw somebody's steak sandwich and I'm like, oh, is this stealing or not stealing? And I was like looking at it, looking away, crouching. I did that for a couple minutes. And I'm like, wait a second, there's no stealing in this game. You could just take it. Like you can literally just take anybody's stuff, not that everything's interactable. And at first I was just like, I'm just like, is this what I like or not like? And then I realized like, you know what? I do like it. If I want to go play Skyrim and Elder Scrolls 6 is going to come out and I'm going to have that immersive sim, that's fantastic. I love that. I love Elder Scrolls and Skyrim, and I'm going to love the next one, which is maybe going to be in Hammerfell, according to rumors. And there's a place for that, and I'm going to do it there. But in this game, it's very simple, and it makes it very easy to just sit down and play in short spurts. You can pop in. I can do little quests, like you're saying. I can just the fat is cut. Is my point here. The interactivity is much lower, but it's streamlined in such a way that's really nice for me. And maybe a lot of people won't like that, or maybe you won't like it if that's not what you were expecting coming in. Like if you put Avowed and Skyrim side to side, surely this will probably be a negative if you're a Skyrim lover, right? But if you can separate the two in your mind, which is what I'm trying to do, I think it's a positive. Streamlines the game. I'm totally gonna complete this game in a healthy amount of time. I think, right? It's not gonna take me months and months to beat this game. That's one positive. My man, you said the magic combat was one of your positives, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I don't want to say that. I'm going to say the story and the narrative. So this is actually a negative from many reviews, I think, or even just online people posting. I think it can be tough to get into. It's a brand new world for many players jumping into this. Personally, again, I've played Pillars of Eternity. I love the story of that game. Love the world, so I'm very familiar with these things. But why I call this a positive is because of this awesome feature in the game where you can hit a button to understand the lore. I'm sure maybe there's another game that's done it. I have not seen this before personally. I play a lot of games. Tag me in the comments if there's other games that do this, but this is so fantastically done that anybody can start to get into this very quickly. It's like, if this wasn't here, it'd be like sitting through Fellowship of the Ring Extended Edition and just having to drone on and try and pick up all these things and go to Wikipedia later or watch the movie again. This button, for those that haven't played, you hit this button and it brings up not only the chat history of whatever interaction you're having, so you can scroll back, but on the right-hand side, it brings up the keywords. So it's like, they talk about some god, Ethoros, and you're like, what the heck is that? You know what I mean? You tap the button, it brings it up. It's like, Ethoros is the god of blah, 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 blah. People like them because of blah. Some people don't like it because of blah. Like, great. Now I'm up to speed in literally like 2 seconds. So any of these definitions that you don't know, or like the history, you have that at the tap of a button. You can look it up and then you tap it away and you keep going. And I think that's a huge positive for me. Did you like that feature or no?
So I'm going to comment on this. I have I've seen that. When I saw that, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Usually, like, and even this is still yet even a recent design is being able to go through dialogue history, right? Like, oh, I can go reread this conversation, and that's happened in the last decade or so of games, because like I feel like that was not something that was always present in games, and that was like a nice quality of life change. But then I saw you could see chat history and lore, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. You can just get context right there. I think I have not touched that button. I haven't hit that button to read any of that.
You should give it a shot, dude.
So while you're sitting there talking about this, because like I did think it was really cool that exists, and it's like it's something I could see myself like enjoying using and stuff like in certain contexts, I guess, but in certain games or certain something, whatever. But like this, I haven't really felt the need to, and I was just like, I think this separates like why like I can enjoy bad movies. Like I enjoy bad movies way more than you enjoy bad movies, right? You're like, I only want to watch these 90% plus on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever. I don't care. Rotten Tomatoes has no indication of whether I'm going to enjoy a movie or not, right? We talked about this on the Discord a few weeks ago, and a little bit, right? We got into a little bit of a discussion. But I'm just like, I'm just happy with the story that I've got throughout the experience of the game, right? Like that's all I really need. I know that there's a lot of big pillars, you know, like there's a lot of lore in the Pillars universe. And it's like Deadfire is like, I know that's like the subtitle to the second Pillars game, right? And that's brought up a lot. And and really a notable part to the story, right? Like it's brought up a lot with it so far, at least in my experience. And so it's just like, all right, you know, I know that's a nod to the second game, and that's really all like so far that's all I've really cared about. And there's times where it's like I really get into something that I really want to know and I really want to deep dive and I want the context and all that stuff. But right now I'm just like I'm more just focused on the exploration, more interested in the exploration and discovering the world. And just having those story beats are just good enough for me to because I will say, like, I do like the decision making and stuff, and the narratives and decision making and stuff are definitely things that feel very, very similar to Outer Worlds to me in terms of how the design there, right? Like the way you're able to make these different choices and like impacting things, it just resembles that to me. So those are my thoughts on that.
Okay. So my two negatives then. So my negatives are it has to do with the combat for one. There was a lot of feedback early on that the combat wasn't weighty enough, and the combat didn't look good from the trailers and stuff, right? And so they said, hey, we're going to go back and rework the system. And I think it's pretty good for the most part. However, I tried out a few of the different weapons. The game definitely seems like they focused on magic and like one-handed play with parrying. So some of the other stuff doesn't feel as good. And my negative is just like the combat in general is not perfect. And some stuff's overpowered. I feel like the magic is way overpowered. Like I have not had any difficulty. I'm playing on normal difficulty. I stayed middle of the road. I think there's 5 total. I stayed middle of the road, and the magic is pretty overpowered. And I thought maybe it's just the starting area or how I'm playing. And so I decided to look it up tonight before we recorded this episode. And a lot of people felt the same way. Like the magic is pretty OP with the wand and the grimoire, or people using the pistol and the grimoire. So if you haven't played the game, basically like you can have a background that gives you certain stats and abilities. But you ultimately can use any weapon, which is really cool. So let you play the way you want to play. You get 2 loadouts. The grimoire gives you a skill point in 4 different spells, depending on what grimoire you have. So you can get different ones, and so you can basically add magic to anything. And I feel like the magic's a little overpowered. So like there's a freeze spell, a chain lightning, a fire one, and a magic shield you get right at the beginning. And that combo is pretty good unless you get swarmed by enemies. It's pretty easy to just like, hey, I'm gonna freeze this dude. I'm going to chain lightning the group, focus with the fire on the guy, throw a couple wand attacks, and they're done, right? So to me, that's a negative so far. Maybe the game will get more difficult, but the magic feels OP.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's like, I would say I definitely agree with a lot of, that's why I specifically called the magic combat, right? Feels really good. And I didn't just say combat. I have seen some people like talk about the combat. One thing is like the skill tree, right? Is it has things like that parry and stuff that get added, right? So there's ways to I think I've heard some things where it's just like once you start doing some of that stuff, like it does start to feel better. But I'm like, it just feels weird that it's like if you have to climb the skill tree for combat to feel good, like then you did something wrong. I think it's just like you should have something, you should have a mechanic feel good and then want to build onto that through the skill tree, not have to build on through the skill tree for it. So it just feels like instead of like adding to it, it's actually like they built something and then took away, so they had a skill tree for
Yeah, yeah. And
and
to be clear, the actual combat feels good, right? I think like when they said they added the weightiness to it, I think they did that. Like
you
you
can
feel
feel
the
it.
impacts of the blows, you get knocked back. Like it's like these epic moments, like you swing your heavy sword or whatever you're carrying, or even your wand, right? And you feel the impact on the guys. I think they did a great job taking the feedback and
Yeah.
fixing it in that regard.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things. So like that's similar to the interactivity with the world and all this stuff that you saw as a positive. And I will say I didn't find that as a complete negative. There's one thing I thought was good out of this. So like Obsidian is just kind of like we want to be a sustainable developer, right? Like we want to build games in a reasonable budget that don't have to hit 10 million copies sold
Hmm.
to be justified, right? We want our games to be stand on their own as games that don't need wild numbers to support, right? And so what I like what I think that they did, right? They said like Obsidian had a very like they had a vision for what they wanted to do with Avowed, and they pursued that vision and just kind of made sure everything else was good enough. Uh, and
Yeah.
and I think within the context of like they are not going to have a fraction, they're going to have a fraction of the budget that Elder Scrolls 6 will have, right?
Yep.
And if they can provide a good chunk of that experience at a fraction of that budget, and it's something I can play on Game Pass and I don't have to spend the same amount of money to play it. And even if you do, I think it's still worth having. But and again, this isn't just a snack size Elder Scrolls game, and it's not just a snack size Fallout. I would say that the more I played it, and I want to see how you feel about this my thoughts on this is it almost felt like more of a snack sized love child of Skyrim and Baldur's Gate.
100%. So I was actually going to say that as like this is like if literally Baldur's Gate and Skyrim came together and it like they attempted to do like incorporate things from Baldur's Gate but without the big budget. And that's fine. That's
Yep.
great. Like I don't need another Baldur's Gate 3 as much as I love that game. I sank 200 hours into it. I can do multiple more playthroughs and I intend to do another one. I don't need a carbon copy of Baldur's Gate 3, but they took things that they liked from that and they incorporated it in here into a first person game. And I think it's worked out well. Like there is a place for this, exactly how you talked about, like that this is like essentially a AA game with some AAA qualities and that AA length and stuff. So, I think they nailed it here. And if you're looking for that, or you just need a reprieve from these long games, this game is right up your alley.
Yeah. It's it's like you have some really like I mean Josh Sawyer, right, is and you have some really big like some good big names in the industry making games that are not like just not this and it's I don't know, it does feel good that the Obsidian just feels like such a good developer to exist in video game industry. Like I don't know, like I don't know how to put it, but it's just like I mean, we also talk about, right, we were talking about Elder Scrolls, we're talking about Baldur's Gate. I mean, how long did Baldur's Gate take to develop? Baldur's Gate 3 to take to develop? How long are we waiting on Elder Scrolls 6, right? Obsidian has put out by the end of this year, when Outer Worlds 2 comes out, they'll have 4 games that have come out this generation, right? Between I mean, Pentiment was a smaller game, but it's just like they'll have Grounded, they'll have Pentiment, they'll have Avowed, and Outer Worlds 2 by the end of this year. When it's just like there's a lot of studios we haven't even seen release a game in this generation.
Yeah.
And it is just like we've had one from Bethesda with Starfield. We've had and we were just talking earlier about PlayStation, right? I mean, what new game has Naughty Dog brought to the table? It's like you've had Sony Santa Monica bring one game, right, with Gears of War, and then Insomniac is kind of similar but different than Obsidian, right? They are they churn out games as well at a rapid pace, but it's like it's good that both of these platforms have that studio that can do that. But,
there's an article that came out like today or yesterday that it took them 6 years to make this and they rebooted it twice. So they were moving at a pretty quick clip to do this. And as far as I know, like they had a big group to start and then ramped it down and moved people over to Outer Worlds is what I had read. So pretty impressive stuff by them. Even though it's not a full AAA game, it's good.
Yeah, I agree. So, one thing I think I
Are
said
you
this
ready for
really.
my other negative or no?
Oh yeah. You have another negative. I'm sorry, I forgot you had another negative too.
um Man, it's hard to pick one. I would say the controls, man. I think and there's a patch that dropped today, just so you know. I don't think it hit Xbox yet, but it should within the next day or two. um the controls, both in the menu and some of the menu layouts, I don't like. And then some of the combat controls sometimes, and like controlling your companion and stuff. And I'm interested to get another companion and see if it gets even worse. So I think
Mm.
there's that can be frustrating sometimes. So like for example, there's a bug in the menus where like if you're touching any input and trying to tab over with like the right or left bumpers, it doesn't work. It doesn't know how to handle like, oh, you're accidentally touching the stick and hitting the bumper. Like I need to have
Yeah.
just the bumper hit. Things like that. And like I would love to have a quick touch map. Like I don't want to have to go into the menu and then cycle through
And go.
menus to get to the map. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
so there's some quality of life stuff around the UI and the controls that is a negative for me. That feels like as Obsidian, you guys should have this figured out, right?
I 100% agree with that, and that is actually, I would say, my biggest negative of the game. Now that like you brought that up, like that was something I think about like constantly. There's a lot of things that feel like it's just like, all right, we've already got an industry standard for how to do these, use like do these certain mechanics, or get to these certain things, or do these things, and it's just like you decided to change that for what reason, right? Like, or it's like it feels intuitive to do this, and when I do that, I'm now, instead of like throwing a grenade or something, instead of instead of bringing up the wheel that I expect to bring up, or like even like when you bring up the ability wheel or whatever, or the shortcut wheel, I always go to use the right stick to navigate.
That makes me so angry. It's the left stick.
It's the left stick.
I can't.
And then like the dodge button is A, which is also jump, and it's like there's some platforming in the game, which is again not makes it not Skyrim or Baldur's Gate, right? There's some platforming game which I actually kind of enjoy. I think it's neat.
Let's touch the platforming in a second because I want to elaborate on that. But yeah, the dodge, it's double tap A.
I go to jump, and then
to the side or backwards.
I'll off the stinking platform. And some of the platforming is like 100 feet high, and it's like, well, I died.
Yeah.
And I haven't had any kind of critical issues, too many critical issues with it. Like maybe once or twice where it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't play this game. And I would say that's with my gripes. None of my gripes are, oh my gosh, I can't play this game. But it's like, I really wish it wasn't here. I really wish this problem wasn't here.
Yep. Yeah, it's not that bad, but it does make you feel like what are we doing here? Come on, guys.
Yeah. So you wanted to touch on the platforming?
Yeah, I was changing images a little bit just to mix it up here. So this is one of the there's Kai on the right, is one of your first people that you meet, and he's also becomes your first party member. It's not really a huge spoiler, like it happens right away. And this person on the left you'll actually interact with more later on. I just did something with her. The platforming, dude, like you touched exploration was a positive for you, so I didn't want to take that as mine, but we should elaborate on it. Like, this game does such a good job rewarding exploration, like so good. Almost in the same way as like a Breath of the Wild. Again, not that expansive scope, but like in Breath of the Wild, you get curious about something, you're gonna get rewarded for it. Your curiosity gets rewarded. That is 100% the truth here, just in a much smaller scale. So like you're like, is there something behind that waterfall? Probably, most likely, not all of them. Look at that. That looks like maybe that's a cave. You're going to get rewarded. There's going to be something there. I wonder if I could climb that and jump over there. Oh, well, the developers thought of that. And yes, there's a treasure chest up there. Like it's so rewarding to explore around. And then you're going to find your side quests and your guys to fight. So that design is fantastic.
Yeah. It's honestly, it's incredible. And every time I get rewarded for that, right? Because we talked about like, I think we were messaging the day after it came out or whatever, and like I was like 3 hours in, And I was like, yeah, I spent an hour and a half just discovering or just, seeing what the invisible walls were at the very introduction area, which there wasn't a whole lot there, right? It's just trying to push you through that tutorial, which is fine.
That's why I panicked a little bit, because that first initial area with the shipwreck is very small. I'm like, there's no way this guy spent an hour and a half here.
Right. I did spend too long there. But like, but once you get to shore, right? And there's the little outer city, right? Outside of Paradise. And there's a lot to explore there even. And I did come across some things that I'm like, well, I might have to come back here later because I am not strong enough. I will say, and I can't remember. It's hard to say because it's like I've got well over 200 hours in Skyrim or whatever, and it's just like I can't remember if the beginning is hard with combat. I do remember like at some point you quickly become, in most Bethesda games, right? You quickly become
invincible.
Like, yeah. I mean, you can pretty much go into anything. You don't really have to worry about it, and you're like, oh, I died there. And it's like that's almost a surprise, right? That's not the case here. I would say for me, I've died more than I typically die in a Bethesda game, and I'm just playing a normal difficulty. Some of it is bothersome for the controls, like where I just like it is. I don't want to fully blame the controls, right? But like I'm like, oh dang it, I didn't mean to drink that potion. I didn't mean to do I didn't mean to do this. I didn't mean to do that. And it's just like I don't know that I would have died had the controls just been more intuitive. And and they do different things with combat, so it's hard to say. It's like, well, why didn't they just do the same thing? I did say that, but it's like, part of me does wonder. I'm like, well, other games don't do this with combat or do this with the controller, do this. So it's like, is that the reason they didn't do things the same as they've always been done? Is because they needed to find a way to fit other things into this control scheme, right? That it does do new. But yeah, the exploration, like you were saying, like there are things that it's like you explore, right? And you're like, oh, I discovered something, and then there's more to discover within that discovery, and sometimes there's even more to discover within that discovery, right? Like you're almost like just like hidden secret after behind a hidden secret, and like if you get to that, like it's so satisfying because like it'll feed into the story. Oh, I didn't expect you to do that. I'm surprised that you saw that. Like like there was one thing that I hit where it was just like a character in the story was like, I didn't expect you to do your due diligence, and that's why I lied to you about this kind of thing. Like, I don't know, it's just kind of cool. Like, so it's not only rewarding with loot, it's rewarding with narrative. And it's that satisfying feeling of like being rewarded for that. It's like I've talked about how in games I like to feel smart. It's like I like the games like, you know what, you did something really clever there. Here's something good. And it's just like, oh, just give me that hit, dopamine hit, right? Like, and so I'm gonna turn, a little bit. Like my first few hours, I was like a little bit skeptical. By hour 6, I was like, oh no, this game's really good. 12 hours in, I'm like, oh my gosh, this game is so stinking fantastic.
You just want to keep playing it.
Yep. Yeah. Do not want to stop playing. And like you said, it's nice to have that smaller 90-hour experience.
90. Get out of here. I'm actually curious. I'll look up the how long to beat.
It's a little bit longer than the Outer Worlds numbers I gave. Like it was like how long to beat the main story was like maybe 2 hours longer than Outer Worlds, and then the story plus was like
16 and a half main story, 33 main extra. Completion is 62. So
actually quite a bit for the completionist, right? But there's also not a whole lot of numbers. I think it's still red on how long to beat, right? As opposed to like blue when it gets a ton of numbers in.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
13 hours on Outer Worlds main story. So
okay. Yeah. And yeah. So I was joking about a nice consumable 90-hour experience. For me, it's like I think I'll get plenty because there's so much to explore here, and I'm just like in the world. So one, it's like it's a compliment, but also a gripe. Okay, the world is absolutely stunning, right? The visuals are beautiful. This is a gorgeous game. It's like some people complained about the bright colors, blah blah blah, but like the lighting is really well done, and like I love the colors and stuff that it brings. It's not just all this gray or brown or like this, like which is like I love Fallout, I love Skyrim, I love like Fallout, but it's just like those all the colors kind of
they're drab,
yeah. I love the color pop that's in this game. It gives this like almost kind of what I expect of a Fable to have, as well as like a lot more colorful, but this almost like fairy tale esque, in a really good way, right? Not in a childish way, but it just gives a sense of wonder and like excitement in this really like living world, right? But like the visuals are like in the detail and stuff. I'm like, there's so much visual detail, and maybe my complaint here is also tied to the control scheme, but it's like I feel like the visuals are at 100, but like the ability to like your controls and the way you move about that world are not as well detailed and
integrated to the world. It almost takes you out of it sometimes.
Yes. So it almost feels like my movement is way clunkier than the visual detail suggests it should be.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah, it's fair. It almost feels like your character's out of place sometimes, like you've been dropped in this world and you move like a game character when really you should move with like one of the people in the world. Like it should be very smooth.
Right. Like I feel like the movement should feel as realistic as the world looks, right? And like it almost has me curious, right? There's Bloodborne demake, right? That has made Bloodborne look like a PlayStation 1 game. I'm like, I'd be curious to see an Avowed demake and see if I actually enjoy that more.
Yeah, nice.
And it also it tunes in with some visual cues. The visual cues are not bad, and the more I've played, the more like I've clicked on with them. But I would say like when there's not so much visual detail and stuff, sometimes it's like you don't necessarily have to like highlight interactive elements of the game with like a border, with a lit up border and stuff to say, hey, you can interact with me, when visuals were not as detailed. And this is a really weird gripe, but like, it's like, oh, I know that like I can tell because the like visually, like that there's that crack in the wall, that's something I can blow up, or that's something that I, or that's something I can pick up because it's just like, that's the standout detail in that spot. Right. And it's like, I don't want to complain about having necessarily visual detail. I was hoping Curtis would be on this episode. Because it's like, oh my gosh, this guy's complaining because the game looks too good. Really? Like that's the complaint. Yeah. I was gonna call it I was prepared to call this my moment, my get kicked off the podcast moment of this episode, right? But for just complaining of like, this game looks so good that it's like I can't interact with it. It's not as easily to interact with because like it doesn't stand out from the rest of the world, right? The visual detail that I can't interact with doesn't stand out, or the stuff that I can interact with doesn't stand out from the stuff I can't interact with.
I was just switching some images. I would agree. How about the character and enemy design? I think it's awesome.
That's pretty cool. The lizard guys, they remind me. So it's back to Star Fox Adventures.
Yeah, there you go.
Because it was initially Dinosaur Planet, right? It was Star Fox Adventures was going to be, and for whatever reason, like those Lizalfos is obviously like that was also another thing I was thinking about while I was playing this. I was like, imagine a Zelda game that did look this good though. Like,
dude, like, come on, man, right?
Like that does sound pretty. I mean, at least interesting.
One time, Nintendo. One time, come on.
Right. Yeah, just one time. Maybe we'll get that with Metroid. But like, I'm like, I would like to see what, like, I love the visual style of the last two Zelda games, right? Like the everything. I think it's a beautiful world and stuff. But it's just like, it does, when you see a game like this and like you said, something that looks like a Lawful, you're like, I do kind of wonder what like a Zelda game would look like. How like a Zelda game would feel like with this type of visual style.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, for whatever reason, it took me back to like Star Fox Adventures was like the thing that I thought of, and I was like, I don't know. Again, it's just like the Dinosaur Planet DNA that still stayed in that game. It was pretty cool. It's not super diverse. You kind of run into like there's like 4 or 5 enemies that you kind of run into, but it's good. I think it's good. It's fun, and what is diverse?
It gets more diverse.
The style. Yeah, that and the combat of the combat style of each of those of these enemies and stuff, right? It does mix up. I mean, you do kind of get like you get your close combat guys, you get your range guys, you get your magic guys, right? But they do have some. I think at least it feels like they've had subtle differences, at least in types of right with these. I can't remember exactly what they're called, but the
Lazaros.
Lazaros.
No. Zarips. Zaros is from
Zalthos
Zelda.
is Zelda.
Yes, it's very close. Yes, Zarips with an
Zaros.
X.
So yeah, there's like the Zara. Yeah, so the Zaros, and then there's the
Zarips. We're gonna help him. We'll get him there, listeners. We'll get him there. Chat. Come on. Zarips.
Zarips.
Yes.
Zarips. Yeah. I don't know. I've got a bunch of their tongues. That's all I know. But it's a upgrade component. Yeah, no, it's pretty good. Like I said, and apparently it expands as you go on. But like, I do love. So far, I've really enjoyed the named bosses that I've come across. And
you need to go into Paradise, dude. Like you should go back.
I haven't done the. Go ahead.
I was to say, like, whatever you got to do, you should do the next like 1 to 2 main things because it doesn't take long, and it opens up some other stuff like the bounty board and stuff, which is the named guys you're killing. You get rewarded for that. So like, it's worth it to like, hey, let me take 30 minutes to 45 minutes, go do the main story, like a couple of things and a cutscene, and then you'll get like the bounty board and other merchants and stuff, and that'll open up your exploration even more.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I'll get there.
If you in a few podcast episodes.
If you remember, Fallout 4 came out, and it took me 40 plus hours of gameplay to get to Diamond City.
Oh my god!
And that's what this feels like, right? Is like the Paradise is going to be the Diamond City, and that's I don't know that it'll take me 40 hours because this isn't as big as vast as Fallout, but it does kind of feel like that. They give me that sense. And I got up to the second objective on the main quest that you got to do, which is like it goes into that little cave. You fight the couple bears, right? I fought the couple bears, and then there's that little cave there, and I was like, all right, well, I know I have to come back here later. And then and then I just like moved on, and like something else caught my eye, and I was like, oh, I could check that out. Oh, I could check that out. And it does provide, maybe like not quite at the level of Breath of the Wild in terms of like, oh, what's that? And then I want to go see it. But it does really hit on those elements, right? Where it's just like, it does constantly put something just in the distance. And there's components I saw that it's like it was something I discovered, like one of the party campsites. I can't remember what it's called, but the
Adra crystal.
Adra, the Adra crystals. And I did see like it was like an Adra crystal that I had discovered, but like as I was like taking my path through, there was like this I can't remember if it was some kind of fort or whatever, some kind of building, some kind of structure that I was in. That you could get to through a different path. I think that the path that the game typically would have guided you to, but I didn't take. And then you could see there was like just a hole in the wall where you could see the Adra crystal through or Adra crystal or whatever through that hole in the wall. That's like, hey, this is out in the distance. I was like, oh, that is like, it's just like it was like framed or whatever. And it's just like it's just really clever, really neat to see that. And I was just like, if I would have come through here this way, I would have been like, oh, I gotta go get that. I see that out there. I see.
There's a lot of those actually, which I think is really clever level design because it tells players that are going on the beaten path, like, hey, there is an unbeaten path. So if anytime you see, there's multiple instances of this in the game where it's like, oh, there's a hole in the wall. Oh, there's a window and a door. Oh, there's a jail door. You look through there and you can see those things, and that tells you, hey, there is a way to get to this.
Yeah.
You have to be adventurous enough to find it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly am. That is certainly the way I love to play, especially these types of video games.
Yeah.
Right?
Have you gone under Paradise yet?
Yes.
In the cave? You beat the named person there? Or not person? Okay, cool.
Well, I have done that part of the game. I won't say how I did it. Because yeah.
My kids love that, man. Anytime you get these fantastical creatures and stuff, my kids are all about oh, look at the lizards or spiders or the beetles, and they love animals in general and stuff, so they think these things are like so cool.
That area was absolutely stunning, and the fact that like it's like, oh, this is a cave, but it's like it's not just a cave, man.
Yeah,
it's like it's like a cave in Skyrim is just like they all start to taste the same, but it's like you still got to do them or whatever. Like not all of them, but like 80% of them, right? And that's what I think this does, right? It's instead of like
Draugr,
fill this with all these caves that feel very similar and then have a few new unique ones. Like you just feel like you're just getting the unique ones, which is just really much, right?
Again,
And,
all killer, no filler, man. They cut the fat
yeah.
out, and it's fine. Like that's what they set out to do. They didn't set out to make this giant Skyrim or giant Baldur's Gate. They set out to take the best things from those and the best things from their Obsidian games and put them together into one.
Yeah, and that was the second part of what like the map doesn't tell the whole story for me, right? The verticality, and then like that cave is not like a part of the map, right? Like it's
not listed
like
anywhere.
It's under the city. So it's like I haven't been in Paradise, but I have been under it. But I did some really cool things, and that was where I brought up like the Outer Worlds, like the decision making and stuff that you have, and the choices that you can make, the paths that you can take. There's branching, just choices there. That was one of those things. There was a lot of different options that you could do in that cave, and I did some save scumming, and I did a handful of them, and I'm really satisfied with the one that I landed on. But there's some really cool things, and so it's almost like the way how they do exploration like on the map so well. They also do the way that you can explore their narrative really well, and I think that's really like those are the explorative narrative to me is something that Obsidian really shines. So that's what I really liked about Outer Worlds, and that's what people love about like Fallout New Vegas, right? As compared to Fallout 3, and that part was that's been my favorite part of the game so far.
Nice. Yeah, I really like that. It's funny, my daughter, like, there's the voice in your head while you're playing a game. So we're like, she'll be watching, and anytime the voice comes on, so she's like, get that voice out of my head. Like, she's like, gets upset that the voice is, she's like, you got to do something to get that voice out of our head. It's not normal. I'm like, all right, yeah, got it. You're right. So just, we're already 30 minutes over.
I was say we're coming up on 90 minutes here.
Yeah. Because it's very late here. It's almost 1:30, and I got to get up early. So we'll start to wrap up. But no, I mean, I love talking about this game, so this was going to happen. This game to me, I told you, is like 10 times better in Outer Worlds, and I stick with that. And that's not that Outer Worlds is a bad game. I think the way they've done the theme of this game and the fantasy, I think they've done it more justice than they did to the theme of Outer Worlds. I think the narrative and the dialogue are way better. It's way less quippy. There's still funny moments, but it's not that MCU quippy humor. And maybe that's just what Outer Worlds is. But I think that's generally a knock on that game when people have to give it a con, Outer Worlds. Here, I feel like it's so much better. So I think so far playing this game, this is also much more pick up and put down than Outer Worlds, in my opinion. Like, I feel like because of the exploration, the platforming, the rewarding system that they give you for exploring, the side quests, the bounties, the main quests, you can literally pop in, play this for 20 minutes, leave, come back tomorrow, and you can do something else for 20 minutes. And then the next day you have 3 hours, you can play 3 hours. And it's great for bite-sized playing. So I think it has a lot going for it that I personally like this way better than Outer Worlds. And again, not that Outer Worlds is a bad game.
I definitely don't agree with that so far. At 3 hours in, when you initially said that,
big Outer Worlds fan,
Outer Worlds fan, right? In general, a bigger Fallout fan than Skyrim, right? Or Elder Scrolls. But I mean, there's hardly. I mean, I love both franchises, and there's some days that I feel like I probably love Skyrim more than Fallout. I would say that, well, first off, I want to say it's not the best choice. It's Spacer's choice. So the is that atmospheric? I don't know what that does, right? The tone that and you're not going to have technology that can sing and speak, and you're not going to have a whole lot of music outside of just orchestral like background music, right? And something like Avowed, because you're not going to have technology that can play music, which honestly though, like you could have bards and things like that playing music, which I don't think I've really come across anything yet. Maybe I will once I get into Paradise. But I will say, like, man, Outer Worlds was. I mean, I apparently put like 90 hours into a 13-hour game, right? And I only played through. I only beat it once, like, right. I didn't do like multiple playthroughs. I played through the game one time and spent like 6 times the amount of time it's expected to spend on it. And I do love, and that's probably like where I would say I strongly disagreed with you when you initially said this, and I was about 3 or 4 hours into Avowed. Now that I'm 12 hours into Avowed, I think I'm not as far away from you on that. I definitely don't think this is 10 times better than Outer Worlds.
It might be hyperbole for me, but I think
yeah.
way. I think it's way better.
I don't think
personally.
so I don't think I don't think it's way better than Outer Worlds. I do think it's like, as a product, like, especially when trying to like time align the games, right? Like, I mean, Outer Worlds came out 7 years ago, 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So
this is standing on the shoulders of Outer Worlds, right?
And we'll have a much a better idea. Yeah, right. And we'll have a much better idea, which is wild that we are getting Outer Worlds 2 and Avowed in the same year from the same studio that are doing very similar types of games with different themes. Again, and not to go back on how insane Obsidian is with their production, but I think
we'll have a better comparison this year.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how
that's fair.
But there is a part of me that wonders, Outer Worlds is coming out in the same year as Avowed. Is this pushed forward a little bit so they can work on a Fallout game? Was Outer Worlds pushed so the Outer Worlds
that's a good point.
Can work on a Fallout game because they're like, oh crap, we should have had a Fallout game out there with a Fallout show that took off and blew up and took the world by storm, and we were like, oh, here's a deal on a game that's 8 years old.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
We don't have another Fallout game coming out for another 15 years.
Is it a remaster remake or a side quest one using the same systems and engine from this?
It'd be interesting. I mean, like, maybe a way they could do it would be like just reuse the lore from the first 2 Fallout games. Not necessarily, so you don't have to at least have like a lot of writing. You don't have to put as much time and energy into
Fallout 2 in an Avowed style, Outer Worlds style. Hey, man.
Yeah, I mean, good. Xbox is making a push to UE5, Avowed and Outer Worlds, or UE5, right? So it's like maybe they just they do not even necessarily a remake or remaster of Fallout 1 and or 2, but they're just like, all right, this is a Fallout game that exists with this same lore, right? We can take kind of a lot from this writing. And I know it's not as simple as like, oh, this writing exists, let's just use that. And it applies to this video game that we made. But maybe it's something that could help, is just like, I don't even know if it's a reboot or whatever, but like some kind of side game or whatever in the Fallout universe. But especially with how quick they can pump out games, right?
Yeah, you might be onto something there.
But I wonder if this was like, if Outer Worlds was going to be like a 2026 or 2027, and they're like, you know what, let's maybe they did something to allow them to bump up that timeline, because I don't expect them to be like, you're going to pump out a crappy Outer Worlds game. I don't care how bad it is. You're just going to get out of the door so you can move on to the next thing. Like, I don't think Phil Spencer is going to do that to.
Does this game get an expansion though?
Ooh. I hope so.
I think it's worthy of getting one.
Yeah, I hope so. Outer Worlds did, right? Outer Worlds got at least one DLC, if not a couple of DLCs. Again, if they're like, nope, we need you to work on a Fallout game, maybe it does just get tied up in a little bow. Maybe we get like some kind of final update or something like that, and some of those plans get nixed. But I don't think Phil, even for something like Fallout, they'd be like, they're going to make Obsidian do something that they don't want to do and tell them they can't. One thing it feels like Phil Spencer's been good about is allowing his studios, especially ones that provide quality content, continue to provide that. Like, I think he sees that the quality content comes from the developers being able to work on what they want to work on, the things that they're passionate about. And so I don't think he's going to do something to interfere with that necessarily. So if they want to make DLC for this, I think they will.
Yeah, or maybe it rolls into a bigger one. Maybe they're just like, hey, this is Outer Worlds 2 type material. This is about
right.
Can we talk about we need to wrap up, but can we talk about performance really quick? We're both playing on Xbox Series X, so no PC comments here. I've heard good things, but there's like obviously some optimization issues. I mean, it's just kind of that way when you go after a PC game. Not that it can't be done, like, because I'm going to get attacked in the comments that other companies do it. That is true, but it's an Xbox first game, obviously PC as well, Unreal Engine. So all to say, it's kind of mixed there, but I think the performance of this game on the Xbox just is amazing. What mode are you playing on?
Uh,
Are you playing on the frame rate mode or are you playing on the better graphics mode?
Default.
So I think that's better graphics, 30 FPS, right? I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might have changed it if because I think that might be something you go through in the first in the initial like
It
starting the
is.
game, right? Startup.
Yep.
So I might have picked performance. I feel like I probably did pick performance then. Just simply because it's like again, visuals aren't necessarily thing. I mean, performance isn't a big thing I'd pay a whole lot of attention to either, but it's just like I just probably prefer the smoother gameplay over I mean, and it's like if this is performance that I'm playing in, I mean, visually it's I already said it looks too good.
Yeah, it's way above your pay grade for your games that
Right,
you're
right,
used to.
right.
Yeah, so I'm actually playing on the balanced mode. I know I told you
Yeah.
this in the chat with Curtis because Curtis is like, wait, there is no third mode, and I'm like, yeah, you're too poor. You didn't pay for the extra mode. But if you have a 120 hertz screen and set your Xbox, and I'm assuming this setting you can set on like the Steam copy, you set your Xbox to 120 hertz mode and reboot the game. It'll recognize and enable a third mode. It's not even like grayed out when
That's
you're
so
normally
cool.
doing that. It like you have to actually do this and then it'll become an option. And it's so this is a 120 hertz variable refresh rate, but you can lock it to 40 FPS and then it plays at like 1440p. And I just find like there's several games that have done that, not many, that give you that 40 FPS option. And I think it's great. I think it's just enough more than 30 to make it pretty smooth, but then you get the great graphics and the ray tracing and stuff. It's good. I really like it.
This game rewards exploration so much that even exploring the graphic settings and the television that you use to play the game on
Yeah.
rewards it's
You
rewarding.
nailed it. You nailed it. Yeah.
I do have a variable of refresh 120 frames or hertz television. So I
You should
will.
try it.
I'm going to try it out. I'll make sure that I'm using that mode if I'm not, just to check it out, and I'll probably just stick with it because then I won't feel bothered to go change it because I haven't noticed a hitch. I'm sure I won't notice a hitch by changing to that mode or anything. So, yeah, no, I'll definitely go in and check that out.
Just set it in your Xbox settings under display. Yeah. I was going to ask you one more thing about this game, but I can't remember now. But all I know is I just want to go back and play it, but I can't because I got to go to bed. Yeah. So, final thoughts on Avowed before we close out the episode.
It went from like a 7 out of 10 to quickly like I'm expecting this to be probably a 9 out of 10. Just because there are gripes, right? And it'll be or even like an 8.5 or something like that, right? But for me, if it's an 8.5, if it comes out at 8.5, it'll be one of my favorite 8.5 games I've ever played.
There you go. Yeah, it's extremely likable. Again, you stack this up against other AAA games or like RPGs, and it's simply going to lose because that is not what it's attempting to do.
It's so
worthwhile. It's so likable. If you're like me and you're looking for a break from the big game, but you still want these type of games, this is right up your alley.
Yeah, it's a game. I love the balance of sinking yourself into it, right? Like that you get from games like Baldur's Gate, from Skyrim, and these long games or whatever. It's like it's that the balance that it has with like sinking yourself into it and then just giving you packing a punch, bang for your buck. You know, like everything is impactful, like we were saying, right? Like it doesn't. It's so good. That's where this game shines, right? It does so much at like giving something that you can get absolutely sucked into without just having a ton of filler that like you're just doing because it's there and you just want to spend more time there. Like you can spend tons of time there and everything is rewarded so well.
Yeah, man, totally agreed. Looking forward to ripping through this one. I want to go back and play the Pillars games now. I installed both of them on my PC through the Xbox Game Pass, and I'm going to install them over there. That was the other thing I want to mention. They do a great job if you're a fan of this this world and this game series of referencing stuff that happened in the old one. So the stuff in the old one happened in 28, I think is the year, and 27. So if you read any of the books, or like sometimes people will talk about like, oh, you know, something Deadfire or whatever, and the events you'll see the events in 28. that is a reference to the old game. So you may not be clued into that, but if you see that year, because I plugged it in your head, you might think, oh, that was cool. They rewarded the players that played the other games. So
that's cool. Yeah. Even exploring other games is rewarded. But yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, we're pretty much ready to wrap up here. If you enjoyed this conversation, tune in 2 weeks where we'll be talking about the games we've been playing, which will be Avowed. Pretty much having the same episode, but maybe we'll be talking about a Pokemon Presents instead of a State of Play. But I think it sounds like you and I will both be talking more about this game down the road. If not for another episode, maybe 2 more episodes.
Yeah. And hopefully we get Curtis's thoughts as well. And I'd love to hear the thoughts from people in the Discord and the comments. Please let us know if you like this game or not. And, how are you finding it? What are your 2 positives and your 2 negatives? Would love to hear that from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the conversation and hope you enjoyed Avowed as much as we are, or we'll get to enjoy as much as we do, because and if you like the episode, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, join the Discord. Discord's fun to talk, get a lot of fun conversations in the Discord. All right. I guess we'll let Mark go. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
And share it with a friend. Share the podcast with a friend.
That really helps. Actually, that probably helps. Just as much as any of this other stuff, because the more people shared with, right, the more people that get to hear me just rant about Nintendo most episodes. And then I didn't do it this time. But I did have to.
It is. Yeah. Oh, you snuck it in there with the Zelda.
There was one joke I wanted to make.
Yeah,
I did. I still talked about Nintendo. There was one joke I wanted to make. I was like, about this game was I'm gonna make it real quick. Is that this is it's probably the second best franchise about breaking clay pots and old crates. But I have shattered every single clay pot I've come across in this game.
Yeah, always. You got to see if there's something in it. Did you? Oh man, we're supposed to end the episode, but this is the final post-credit scene here. Did you see the cabbages joke? The Avatar cabbages joke? Did you see the cabbages spilled out?
No.
There's an area with the cabbages spilled out and a letter, and it's not like word for word, but you're like, oh, I get it, because there's several games that have done this.
Something cabbage. I wish I would have paid more attention to, because I do think I probably came across that. I have not read a single. I don't think I've read entirely any one of those letters that you find. But gosh, I kind of wish I would have. And in light of a new Avatar, show, or
there you go,
series coming, so the third basically Avatar in that the Avatar Last Airbender saga, I guess.
Yeah.
But
all right, well, that was the post credit for episode 25. If you stuck around.
Yeah, right.
So you were rewarded with that, and we will see you guys in episode 26. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.